Hi, welcome to the Shadesong Saga. Tonight we have the third and final episode in Saga 8, Blackbird's Cry. I'm Bleakseason, GM and creator of the Shadesong Saga. You can catch up on all the other sagas that came before, as well as uncover lore and more information about exactly what Shadesong is by visiting my online journal at bleakseason.com. You can also catch up with Saga 7 The Well on VOD, where all good VODs are sold. Our saga tonight takes place in Rukin, the land of the Orkin, a militaristic and mercantile nation whose capital, Trost, is often seen as the trade capital of the world. After 4 of the 5 ancestral mercenary companies of the Orkin nation turned against their people, and their leader, Gethra Bloodclawed, Marshal Strecker, assassinated by Clothgilda, the master assassin, the player characters found themselves on the run in the mountains during a blizzard. As they sought shelter in nearby ruins, they were attacked by restless spirits, which they managed to survive. They were then helped by a strange silver fox called Lacrime, who asked for their help in return, to venture forth in the underground ruins to hopefully rescue the kidnapped child of a northern king. I'd now like to take the opportunity to introduce our players for tonight. What's up, boys? How you doing? Everyone doing all right?
Not too bad.
Not too bad, he says. He's Batman. No, I'm Batman. You can't take away my Batman. I'm Batman. I'm sad now.
The real Batman does not wear hockey pads.
That's true. That's true. I do, though. I'm wearing them right now. Hey, how y'all doing? Thank you so much for being here again tonight. Third and final part. We're finally going to get to see who lives, who dies. No, I'm kidding. We're finally going to get to see what happens to your characters when you descend into that scary little hole that you're heading into. But before we get to that, how about we take a moment here for each of you to introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're up to, what you're doing, where you can be found, and give us a little bit of a lowdown on your character. And since you're the scariest, Miko, I believe we'll start with you.
I don't know why you think that. Every single time, too. I think you have issues.
Because I know you.
Fair enough.
I think it's your costume, but no, it's because I know you.
Yeah. Anyone who really knows me. Anyway, hi, I'm Miko. I am, you can find me on the socials at the_okayest_GM. Most of the time you can find me here on the Guild Superior Twitch stream, where I am a producer, particularly for the Monday Night Mayhem games, which is my bread and butter currently. If you would like to take part in one of those, by the way, feel free to join our Discord and hit me up sometime. We're always looking for new faces, whether it be coming on as a GM or a player. Feel free to get in contact and keep an eye out for casting calls that we do. Tonight I will be playing the role of Avon, a seer of spirits here in the Orkin lands and purveyor of all things to keep these ruffians that I travel with safe, whether they like it or not.
Whether they like it or not. Thank you very much, Miko. Glad to have you here. And not at all speaking of wooden box, but the man who makes them, Mr. Aaron Cruz.
Hey, how's it going? I'm Aaron. You can find me on Instagram at Complete Diagram Studios. I make dice boxes, rolling boxes, things like that. Got a new one I'm worked on and I'm going to use tonight. So it's this one each has its own lid, so got a fun one in there. Flower, the lid for it, so it's kind of nice. And trying it out tonight. Last week that box didn't roll well for me, but I'm usually roll garbage anyways. So I'll be playing Adelhard. He's the Eldritch Knight of the group, kind of the hit things first, ask questions later. Personal bodyguard to Madame Astara, and sent out to keep an eye on her brother.
Her ne'er-do-well brother always gets in trouble. Well, we'll
Absolutely.
get to him. Sorry?
I just said absolutely. I was agreeing with you.
We'll get to him in a moment. First, the man with all the armor, or literally all of it. He's wearing all of it tonight. Chad, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Glad to be here, Chad. Vampwickman here on the socials. I'm often on one-shots here run by a number of people trying to kill me. I've died most of the time. I feel like I haven't died in this yet because it's not over. One-shots are a much quicker opportunity to see me crushed, smashed, destroyed, blown up, or whatever it takes. And I got to tell you, I'm here for it. If I'm not here, you can also find me at GaryCon in March, celebrating a life well played of Gary Gygax. So his son runs that, and I'm staff there, and it's a good time, good friends, great games, and all the greatest game makers from last few decades. They're there, so it's fantastic. Tonight I'm playing Aunulf. I'm a cleric of light, which basically means I like fire. But if I'm not burning things, I'm obviously going to hit them as a previous soldier when I get up there with the mace and the shield, and I'm not afraid to get in combat and kick some ass, if you know what I mean, friends. But that's why I got all the armor. You got to be prepared. But, I got to tell you, my first call in battle, it's going to be to burn something. And so I'm looking forward to seeing how tonight goes.
Whose skull?
Back to you, DM.
Whose skull is that?
Don't worry about it.
Some poor soul who didn't deserve any better.
Not so poor.
I know he's all spiked up there. He looks like he looks like he could be a mascot for a heavy metal band. I dig it.
Yeah,
I dig it.
Yeah.
Speaking of mascots for heavy metal band, a man who apparently owns his own inn, Aaron. How you doing, man?
Doing well. Glad to be here. For those of you who would like to chat me up, you can find me on my Facebook, facebook.com/Aaron.Stubbs. Great to be here. This is like my second or third time playing on a stream, and I'm glad that Bleakseason could let me on. Tonight I'll be playing Jurgen. He is the younger brother of Elvig, who has commissioned us to take on this endeavor. Jurgen's not quite sure if his luck is running out or if he's just getting the short end of the stick, but this life or death situation, this kind of overarching calamity has now been kind of forced upon him and the group, and we'll see where his past life choices take him in this last episode of Blackbird's Cry. So I'm excited to see what happens.
Cool. Thank you so much for stepping in. I'm also excited to see where Jurgen ends up, since he's a character that's been around since the second saga. So he's been kicking around and has been earning his just desserts. No, I'm sure that his just desserts are perfectly fine. You've done a fantastic job playing him. I'm very glad that you were able to join us to do that. So we'll get back to you guys momentarily. Just a few more little thank yous to get done. I was going to say to get out of the way, but then I'm like, that sounds kind of rude. I'm happy to do these thank yous. So we'll just go through them. Thank you so much, guys, for being here. As I mentioned on Bleakseason, you can find me at the Bleakseason on Twitter. In addition to this Shadesong Saga, I also GM a Blade Runner series every other Sunday, and I play in DM Dave's Tuesday night Heroes of Greyhawk campaign. Before we begin, I'd like to extend a few more thanks, some shout outs to the people that help make these games happen. Thanks to Lewis at Phoenix Designs for the Shadesong logo. Big thanks also to Dungeon Dave for inviting me to bring Shadesong to Guild Superior and for creating the overlays. Andy, my producer on Shadesong, he of the magic hands that move the maps when I can't get them in the frame because I got sausage fingers. Thanks also to Miko for some of the artwork that I use in the sagas, and Ashley for all the work behind the scenes. Shout out to Tabletop Audio for the music, the incredible animated dungeon maps on Patreon. You'll see a few of their maps tonight. And Hero Forge for the minis. Very special thank you to all the members of the Superior Adventures Guild in our Discord, playing our games, including our awesome players here tonight. If you'd like to join us, please drop by our Discord. If you're new to the hobby of streaming, if you're looking for your first shot at being in an actual play, we have tons of opportunities for people to join our table. Finally, before we begin in earnest, I would like to take a look at the past, some 9 months before tonight's events, on a suitably cold night in Norsk, the northwestern territory of the Norskring humans. Jarl Beorn Jofer of Clan Ghostbear, Ulthane, or King, of the Norskring clans, shed a single tear. He stood on the edge of the forest, his thick fur cloak, which had kept him warm through blizzards and sleet storms, now barely seemed adequate enough to keep out the simple chill of a fine spring morning. He felt the cold seep right into him, to the very bone, the very marrow. He held in his hands the most precious bundle, his son, as he knelt by the trees, unable to go forward. "Father," a voice said behind him. "Yes, Saga, I'm here." His daughter approached. As always, she seemed so strong and determined, so wise beyond her years. Neither a Jarl of an Ulthane could hope for a better heir. Her full name was Eva Saga Jofer, after both her grandmothers, but everyone simply called her Saga Thane's daughter, because there was no mistaking what her fate was. Beorn looked down at the precious bundle, and fate, he thought, is not to be denied. Saga placed a hand on his shoulder. He could see she had been crying also. "Don't go, father. I'll take care of him. You'll see. He'll grow up strong. I'll see to it." He smiled at his daughter. "I know you would. You know, when you were born, Sigrither was Voldruna of the clan. The moment you appeared, screaming with lungs that seemed powered by the power of Asator himself, she declared that your fate was set, that one day you would be Ulthane, the first woman to achieve the rank. I felt pride in that moment. But when, so many years later, your mother bore a son, I could not help but snicker at the old Voldruna, dead as she may now be. Then, it was as if she had reached out from the grave itself, with icy fingers to punish me for doubting her and the fates." At this, Beorn unwrapped the bundle. Inside, his son, but a few months old, barely moved, breathing weakly. His left arm and leg were shriveled up, crooked, vestigial things, though he was in all other ways whole. "To allow him to live would be an unbearable cruelty," Beorn said. "He would be weak, unable to fend for himself. To take him back into the wilds is a small mercy, and all that we can give him now." "Please, father, Hush now, Saga. It is our ways. The Nornir weave every man, woman, and child's fate, and in this case, the fate is short and cruel, and we must accept it." "I don't want to accept this fate, father," Saga said. "Fate cares not for what we want. Now, go back to the house. I will not be gone long." Ever dutiful, Saga squeezed his shoulder and, crying once more, turned to leave. After a few steps, she stopped. "You and mother never did say what name you had chosen for him." "No," Beorn said. "We were afraid that to say his name aloud before he was born would be to tempt fate." A sad smile came to him then, but she did not see it as she was already running for the house. "Fate," Beorn said. He wrapped up his son and began to move further into the forest, where he would leave him for the elements to deliver the ultimate mercy that was his son's fate. Ahead of him, something moved, something ancient and powerful. A bear with pure white fur and a demeanor fit for a god, which in some ways, Bjorn, the spirit of the Ghost Bear clan, was. "Have you decided then, Jarl Jofer?" The bear's voice was a deep rumble inside the old Thane's head. "I have." He produced a leather satchel from beneath his cloak and placed his son inside. "Take him to Kettleheim, to the Jotun. They will care for him, and perhaps someday this can be cause for their people and ours to be friends again." The giant bear nodded, lowered his head, and took the leather straps into his mouth. His voice then resonated again in the Yule Thane's head. "Say goodbye, then." Jarl Beorn Jofer of Clan Ghostbear, Ulthane of the Norskring clans, shed a second tear. He held up a hand, and as the bear turned to leave with the most precious bundle, Jofer said, "Goodbye, Kolborn Jorford. Fate is everything." And he turned and headed home. As the four of you, along with Aethelflaed, who now is possessed by the living flame and seems to be having more and more difficulty controlling its power, her skin having turned red now, and you can see the flames that burn right underneath it, and she seems to constantly be in a struggle to control this power that's raging inside of her, that speaks a different voice that she speaks. The four of you and Aethelflaed have begun descending into the tunnels that lead to the ruins beneath this cursed tower where you spend the night. You do this at the behest of Lacrimae, a strange silver black fox that has come to you and helped you out in the night, who has asked you to go down there and retrieve a young child, an infant that has been abandoned and that he was to care for. He cannot go into the underground because there is some sort of force that is preventing him and other beings like him that are not physical and of this world to move in and out of the underground. So you lead the way down into these tunnels with your torch lighting your way. The thing about these tunnels is that at first they are stairs and brick walls that were built here as sort of the base of this tower. But then the further you go down, you start entering still man-made tunnels, but of more natural kind. People who have dug here in years past, perhaps looking for some sort of treasure or other. But the deeper you go, and you're pretty sure after a few hours of walking now that you've reached pretty much near the base of the mountain that you were on, the stranger things become as you'll pass natural caves, man-made ones, then again ancient structures, bricks and mortar and stone that has been now absorbed and covered by the natural elements of the cave, as if some ancient civilizations had once lived here and had been absorbed by the earth over time. You can barely imagine how long ago it was that all of this stood here. And as you go deeper down into this cave, it gets darker and claustrophobic, and the only thing that's sort of keeping you even remotely capable of moving on and going down is this warmth and light that's radiating from Aethelflaed now as the living flame, which seems to bolster you much more than just with warmth and light, but also with some sort of energy that's granting you some confidence and some strength. You also, each of you, have a gift from Lacrimae where he bled on some of your weapons, giving them the ability to do radiant damage, if you remember. And you, Edelard, it was your hand that he shed a tear on, allowing you to do the same with your spells that you use your hand to cast. As you go deeper down into this cave, you eventually will start hearing up ahead some sounds that are obviously echoing and reverberating up this tunnel towards you from some distance. So you can stop and kind of lend an ear and try to discern what it's all about. It seems to be, aside from the natural sounds of the cave, it seems to be someone talking, or a few voices talking to each other. What would you like to do?
I think Jurgen would like to stealth and scout ahead if possible.
Go right ahead if you wish. What the rest of you
We'll
do?
cast invisibility on Jurgen.
Yeah, I mean, that's great.
That's cheating.
Unless you don't want it.
I mean, no. Do I even have to roll stealth for that then?
Yeah, you'd still have to roll stealth for your, to see if you make sound, but I would give you advantage on it.
And I will hit him with guidance just to help him move quiet, even more quiet.
All right.
Fantastic. That's a whopping
Which isn't gonna do much.
24.
Sorry, Edelard?
I said I was just going to give him a thumbs up, which isn't going to do much, but he's just.
I thought you were going to give him a shove. I'll just give him a shove. Oof. You find yourself going down this tunnel. If you want to take a look at our map, you go down this tunnel and come around the corner, and as you approach, you hear voices in a language you don't understand. A kind of high-pitched, kind of almost gnawing sound, almost of a voice as you go down. You've heard this sound before. You heard it back when you were in the underworld in Asphodel a few months ago, where you first got involved in all these shenanigans. You recognize it as the language of the Noviks, the rat people who live in the underground and are known to spread the necrophage. You're arriving around the corner, and you can kind of tell there's a cavern ahead of you. That's where the sounds are coming from. Do you want to try to step closer to take a look, or?
Yeah, I think I'll get as close as I think I'm confident in remaining hidden.
Okay. So as you approach, then, you arrive up here, and you can see, first thing that comes to you is the smell of blood and like fresh carnage that sort of rises to meet you. And as you approach very stealthily and invisible and everything, and you manage to sort of come out of this cavern hole here and peek around the corner, you notice first a number of Noviks lying dead, having been summarily dispatched, and another group of Noviks that are standing around, talking to each other excitedly. A bunch of them are kind of huddled together over here. They seem to be looking at something that one of them has, while the other ones are checking the bodies and making sure that they're dead. These Noviks, of course, you remember, are humanoids with rat features. They were created supposedly by the Necro King back in the dying days of his raid to spread his necrophage, but they escaped into the underworld and broke free of his slavery. But some of them still carry that ability to spread the necrophage, and so are kind of dangerous to other beings, to other people. Would you like to give me a perception test, please?
Gladly. Not good, just a 7.
You don't see anything else. It's literally just a bunch of Noviks and a bunch of dead Noviks. It looks like one group of Noviks killed the other group. But it's hard in the dim light of the cavern, and with the distance that you're at, it's hard to tell more unless you are willing to get a little closer or try something else.
I think now might be a good time to report back rather than press my luck.
No problem. Your stealth is still good. You managed to climb back up the little tunnel that you come down earlier, and come around the corner, and you find your friends all perched there, waiting for you. They have no clue you're there, of course, because you're invisible and making no sound.
I'll go behind Adelhard and give him a nice shove.
Adelhard, you suddenly get pushed from behind. What do you do?
Adelhard's just gonna swing his arm around. You know, it's the old battle, the old warrior fighter thing. He'll get shoved from behind. He just swings his fist as hard as he can behind him, blindly, you know, trying to hit whatever pushed him, because he's obviously on. Oh, what the hell?
Does the shove break the invisibility?
Depends on whether or not you want to count that as an attack or just a prank.
Well,
I mean, I did put like a kick me sign, I'm sure, on the back, but I wouldn't consider it an attack. I mean, I'll drop stealth in front of him as he turns back around to face everyone, and maybe give him a little spook.
all right, and with your battle-hardened and trained reflexes, Adelhard, you stop just short of putting your fist through Jurgen's head. Not that he doesn't deserve it, but you figure that you might need numbers at some point.
It stops just a hair from Jurgen's face, and it's glowing with that new radiant energy, from the gift. He goes, "Oh, you know what, dude? You can't be doing that to me, man. Come on, anybody else? Come on." The glow kind of dissipates a little bit. He puts his arm down and he goes, puts his other hand on your shoulder and gives a little squeeze, probably a little harder than he should. Goes, "So did you see anything in there?"
Yeah. Glad to know your ticker is still working. Yes, I think I've happened upon some Noviks up ahead. That's probably what we're hearing from back here. It appears to have been some kind of quarrel amongst two different groups. I can't quite make out any distinctive features of the victorious group, but they appear to be gathering around the dead, making sure they're still dead and perhaps conversing about the recent battle that they just had. It appears to be in a lower area, so when we immediately approach them, we'll have the high ground, but I'm not sure whether we can take them as friend or foe.
So, just to make it clear to the rest of you, you've heard of these Noviks through Jurgen's accounts of when he was in the underworld. You've never met a Noviks, and until Jurgen came back to the city a few months ago, talking about going to some underworld city that was populated by rat folk, you had no clue these things existed. So take that as you will. Elvik certainly seemed to think that they were real based on what Jurgen had said there.
So ideas, because they appear to be on our path. About 7.
Based on what we were hearing earlier, the echoes coming down the corridor, would we have known that they were speaking and we couldn't understand the language?
From here, it was too far. It was really just kind of like echoes of sounds. It didn't sound like any language that you could hear, but
okay,
they could have been speaking any number of language.
I can at least convey that it was a language that I was not aware of or I couldn't understand.
What would you like to do?
I mean, we could try and approach peacefully. I mean, they just killed a group of their folk, so I'm not quite sure. Could I get like a sense of if anyone was in the wrong or if anyone was in the right from just my brief perception around the area? No,
unfortunately, your perception check was quite dismal.
So we could try and approach peacefully without weapons drawn. We could try and approach stealthily, and I could use the cover of smoke to kind of mask our numbers. Or we could approach swords in hand and potentially either start a fight or intimidate them enough to comply with our demands.
So based on what we've heard, these creatures could potentially have the same necrophage as what killed the horses?
No, the horses were not killed by necrophage.
Okay.
Unfortunately, you didn't have time to really explore that, but they were poisoned, and the necrophage, from what Jurgen could certainly tell you, the necrophage doesn't kill, it transforms people into sort of mindless, ravenous things that seek to spread it. So it's not about killing the host, it's about spreading itself.
But these could potentially have that.
These could potentially spread it, yeah.
I think at the very least, just because I know that we're about to deal with creatures, and Jurgen has said that they speak in strange tongue, and the fact that my spell lasts for an hour, I think I'm going to go ahead and pull a card from my spirit deck and cast Comprehend Language with it.
Okay. So as you pull that card and play it and cast a spell, the echoes are still too faint and kind of far away, but a lot of rhythms and the words now start to sound familiar. If you approached a little bit, you would probably be able to get something out of it.
Great.
So you can approach a little bit without like having to worry about stealth. Like there's, you're a bit of a ways off, and there's like a couple of corners and stuff you can hide behind. So you could get a little bit closer without risking detection, unless they have guards or something. But they certainly didn't seem to. They all seem to be pretty busy with what was going on down there.
I mean, if you want Avend, I could lead and be at least 20 feet ahead of you, stealthing, and that way, if they did post guard down this path, I could give you some sort of sign or a heads up. That way we could stop you from potentially encountering one.
Lead on, young Jurgen.
So I'll head ahead of him, at least we'll say 20 to 30 feet.
All right, toss me another stealth.
Do we all need to do stealth?
No, until you guys get closer, it's not, but it's just because he's trying to...
I'll guidance him before he walks off, just to help.
All right. Another resounding 23.
Nice. So you don't have invisibility on, but you're still as stealthy as you were before. So you'll be able to approach again close to where you were. You still don't understand what the hell's going on, but as you get closer, Avon will begin to make out words, and they seem to be arguing, talking about, well, we can't stay here too long. If there was this group of them, there's bound to be more coming. Yeah, and then somebody else will say, yeah, but we still haven't found that keep. Is your ability to detect the necrotic energy still active? Well, I'd have to drink another potion, but I mean, it didn't do us any good last time, and it took us to the wrong place. All right, well, we need to figure out what to do with this thing and get ready to move out of here, because this is just too exposed, and there's going to be more of these bastards coming down here any minute now. So they're sort of going back and forth like that.
Is there any way I can take my passive now as I'm re-entering the area rather than having to roll a perception?
Sure. And Avon, do you do anything with that?
I'm curious if, I have a 19 passive insight. I'm curious if I can pick up on any subtle cues as to whether or not their tension is more about them being on a mission, or the fact that they encountered this other group and had to slay them.
I'm going to say a little bit of both. You get the feeling that there's a little bit of frustration at, as he said, having gone to the wrong place or having done something wrong. There's a little bit of confusion about something that's just happened. And they don't seem to be worried about being able to handle more of these things. They're more concerned with perhaps being discovered or something like that. Like, they don't seem to fear having to fight. It seems to be more about having their presence known or something to that effect.
Gotcha.
And what is your passive?
My passive is a 14.
So as they're talking, again, you don't understand the words they're saying, but you're kind of getting the feeling that some of the voices are perhaps familiar to you to a certain degree. And as you kind of lean forward, and you will also get this, Avon, as you're kind of close and as you're kind of, lending an ear to what's going on. Was that a baby crying or hiccuping or gurgling?
We heard that, you mean? Coming from their general direction?
Yeah.
Can I position myself in a better spot to, I guess, visualize these individuals and potentially, I guess, see a baby?
Well, there's a couple of them that seem to be kind of huddled around something.
Okay. Potential baby in the center. I still don't... They sound faintly familiar, or like...
Well, it's hard to tell because it's in a language you don't understand, and it's a echoing cavern, but there's a familiarity to some of it. So, Evan, you'll hear them say, all right, then let's get out of here. Let's be ready to move. I don't know what we're going to do with this thing, but we're going to take it with us. It certainly can't leave it here. Let's gather our things and let's get out of here.
So that means that they came upon it. They didn't come with whatever it is that they're huddled around.
That's right.
Okay. How close are Adelhard and Aunulf to me?
They're like, maybe like 10, 12 feet behind, just sort of staying out of sight.
And if I'm reading this map correctly, we're basically just like up a slight ledge from them.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's like, I don't know if you can see it that well, but there's like there was a bridge here that used to cross. It's broken, and you could use that to clamber down if you wanted, or you could kind of walk down the little sloped area down here.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just going to step forward and reveal myself and ring out my voice, hoping that it like echoes enough through the cavern to catch all of their attentions. And I will say, "Don't leave too hastily, my friends."
And as you do that, they'll all turn around and draw swords and sort of look up from where the sound is coming from. And one of them, in common, says, "Who are you? Reveal yourself, your friend or foe." And when he speaks in common, Jürgen, you recognize the voice as that of Erix, the Novix that you and your companions rescued from the prison of Tartarus in the underworld several months ago.
As like a moment of brilliance, Jürgen will kind of lean out from cover and call him by name.
The one,
Erix.
The one that was speaking to you. Jürgen, is that you?
What are you doing here? Sorry, I didn't mean to steal your thunder, Avent.
By all
What are you doing
means,
here?
if you know this man, speak to him. As they're speaking, I will continue walking forward, by the way, with my hands empty and up so as to not be threatening.
No problem. You going down that little ramp there?
Yes.
Erix, my apologies. This is my companion, Avent, and I am also accompanied by two more Orcan, Adelhard and Aunulf, whom should probably come out. They can probably hear me.
If they're friends of yours, please. Strange place to meet, but always better to meet friends in a place like this than enemies. Please, come on down. Put your weapons on, and the other Noviks start resheathing their weapons. And the one that you see in front of you, called Erix, is looks like a sort of white rat. He's got armor and a great sword on his back. He looks like, he's got a good presence to him. He looks like some sort of knight kind of figure. He's got the plate armor and that kind of demeanor and whatnot. There's a couple of others with him also. Most of them are sort of difficult to differentiate one from the other, as they're wearing masks around their face with hoods on. But there are two others that sort of stand out. One that you, Jürgen, will recognize as Cora, who's a female, and another one that you recognize as Ferlin, who is sort of short. He's got a cloak, he's got goggles on, he's got like a whole bunch of potions and serums sort of hanging off of him from different belt pouches and so on and so forth. And he appears to currently be holding a human baby. because things are never weird enough.
I'd ask where Virgilius is, but I'm more concerned about this child in your hands in this place.
Well, I'm sorry, but we didn't have him. These other Noviks had this child. They were all right. This seems like we probably need to take a moment here. Are Vorena and Quintus and Sigrid not with you?
No, we parted ways shortly after we returned. But they're in good health, to my knowledge, at least.
Introductions, then, perhaps. I'm Eric's. This is Cora and Ferlin, and he'll introduce some of the others.
I step aside so my companions can introduce themselves.
Greetings to all of you. You may call me Avon.
Adelhard steps forward with Aethelflight, who's obviously not doing too well, but just sets her down and kind of standing there. He didn't put his battle axe all the way away, but it's just kind of, he has it resting still by his hand. He goes, Adelhard.
And I step out too. Well met, Aunulf.
You'll have to forgive us. And they're fairly short. They're they're below 5 feet tall, like tall, 4'10", maybe something like that. Most of them. They kind of look up at you like you'll have to excuse us. We've never been met by a wall of Jurgen's people before. It's a little intimidating. I hope you don't take offense at our nervousness.
Most people are nervous around me. It's all right.
Ferlin goes, the one with the goggles, and the big goes, yeah, I get that a lot too. When they hear the bottles clinking, people get nervous usually. But I tell them there's nothing wrong. There's nothing to fear. All my serums are very, very stable. Oh, most of them are at least. There's a few that And Eric says, "All right, Ferlin, we'll discuss your serums at another time."
I see Ferlin's just as nervous as ever.
Yes, even though things have changed a lot in the underworld since your friends helped us. There's still a lot to be nervous about down there.
I mean, non-prison clothes suits you better.
Yes, definitely finding my old armor was certainly a boon for the soul. Is this yours? He points at the baby.
I'm not human, but we
no,
actually.
I know, but
can I make any discernible, can I discern anything of the child other than it's just some random human baby?
No, it looks a little malnourished, but not too bad. And otherwise, it's like cooing. It looks to be really happy. It's pulling on Ferlin's whiskers, and he's like, "Let go, let go. That's not a toy. No, don't pull on the other one."
Did Lacrimae give us anything to go off of other than help save this human baby?
Not really. You do know that he was supposed originally to have been abandoned because he was crippled in some way, and you can't really see, but he definitely only has his right arm out playing, and the rest of him seems to be kind of bundled up.
Perhaps a medicine check, just to take a look at the baby, if we could.
Please go ahead.
Okay.
So
don't burn this one.
When you approach, Ferlin's like, I've never held a human baby before. They don't squirm quite as much as ours. It's very interesting. And he sort of proffers him up to you.
Okay. Well, I will do a medicine check.
Go for it.
I will use my inspiration.
All right.
17.
All right. So, like I said, he looks a little bit malnourished. However, he looks like he has been nourished, just maybe not enough. You can see spots of dried milk or whatnot on his clothes and things of that nature. So he seems a little bit undernourished, but otherwise not too bad. And when you open up the bundle, you can clearly see that both his left arm and left leg are very sort of crippled and vestigial and sort of all crooked, but the rest of him seems to be fairly okay. I assume, Ferlin will say, I assume that that's not normal. And he points at the hand, and he seems to be okay though. He hasn't cried.
Yeah. Healthy at least.
If I may, while Aunulf was checking out the child, I would actually like to pull out my spirit deck and just concentrate on it for a few moments and just draw a card and see if I can glean anything spiritual or of significance about the child.
When you pull a card, you get a very fitting one. Considering where you are, you pulled a crossroads, and as you're sort of focused on it and trying to get a read of what it means beyond the obvious of it, you get the realization that whatever happens now in the next few minutes will have a great impact on the life of this child, and that in turn will likely have a great impact on a much broader scope of things. Your card fairly vibrates with power and potency and portent right now. Like it's feeling that there's something momentous going on here that could alter or change things on a grand scale.
I will slowly reach my hand over, holding the card out to Jurgen, and just let him take the card. And I will step forward towards the what was the name of the
leader
fellow in the fancy armor? Yeah,
Eric's.
I will take a step towards him, not trying to make myself imposing, even though I know that inherently I am. I actively attempt to have just a calm and as welcoming as I possibly can demeanor. And I will say to him, "Good sir, if I may, this child was not why you came. What is your burden that you are undertaking in these hallowed caves?"
Well, since you're friends with Jurgen, I assume he's told you a bit of his adventures in our realm, in the underworld. Jurgen and his friends were instrumental in helping my people be freed of the bondage of King Hadesius and the Black and White Speakers. When they came, we tried to help them by helping them acquire an item that they were looking for. Unfortunately, we failed at this and the item disappeared. We since then have been spending our time trying to rebuild our society, though there's still a lot of difficulties there. But something that became clear was that we owed a great debt to the people of the surface, and some of us, on the suggestion of Virgilius, whom you mentioned earlier, who's doing well, decided that we should take it upon ourselves to find this item that we had unfortunately been unable to help retrieve. We didn't know too much, but what we had been able to ascertain was that it was being held in some sort of fortress or keep that was closely tied to the realm of death. Ferlin here, who is quite adept at making various serums and potions, concocted a potion that would allow him to sense powerful emanations of necrotic energies. And we came up through these tunnels. Unfortunately, we've never been this close to the surface before in this part of the world. And, well, as embarrassing as it is to admit, we sort of got lost a little bit. We trusted in the serum to guide us, and Ferlin said he detected a incredibly powerful source of necrotic energy coming from one of the caves below us. we thought perhaps it might be connected to this keep that we were searching. Turns out it's not. There's something, and he points down one of the ways. There's something down that way. It looks like a mausoleum or a tomb or something, but there's very, very intense necrotic energy emanating from behind those closed gates. We didn't even dare get that close to it. We knew it wasn't what we were looking for. On the way back, we encountered this group that was heading certainly in that direction. They were carrying this child, and they're some of the Novix clients have allied themselves with darker powers, and these serve those powers, and they didn't ask any questions. They jumped us, and we had to do what we had to do, but we saw that they had this child, and that made no sense to us. So when you found us, we were just trying to decide what to do. Definitely, that's not the place we were looking for. But even the serum can't help us here. That place is, the emanations are too powerful, and it messes with, so we'll have to go back into the tunnels and try to find another way. But now we found this child, so I must admit we're sort of at a loss as to how to proceed. Were you looking for this child?
In a way, yes. Fate has brought us to this path.
Oh.
And someone has been tasked with the safekeeping of this child, but was unable to venture this way, and thus requested of us to retrieve them.
Well, looks like maybe we were of some help after all. We certainly have no desire or intent to keep this child. You can certainly take it and return to your patron if you wish.
Perhaps, yes. But if I might be so bold, you seem different than perhaps what those of us normally from above might think of your kind.
Well, as I'm sure Jurgen have told you, there's quite a disparity amongst our people. A number of our people have been focused, before Jurgen and his friends came, a number of our people were focused on avenging themselves on what they saw was the on the surface people, which we had been told since our inception were the cause for our sufferings. But some of us thought that perhaps the best way to go about doing this would be to simply introduce ourselves and try to make friends and allies with the surface people. But our king, Odysseus, who's now dead thanks to Jurgen and his friends, was under the sway of some gray-skinned Eldrin warlock named Noir, who had been trying to control him to get his hands on this item that Jurgen and his friends were looking for. Since I was freed from prison, I was put in prison because my voice rings quite loud, and a lot of people tend to listen when I speak. I was placed in a prison for a long time, and when Jurgen and his friends freed me, I was able to rally some of the other Novix who think like me, that our banishment to the lower parts of this world is really self-imposed, and that if we can prove to the surface dwellers that we are not a threat, that there's no reason why we could not learn to live in peace with the people here. Anyways, that's our hope. But it's always difficult to convince some people that their suffering is not self-manufactured. And well, we're dealing with that, but we thought that perhaps coming up here and trying to help finding this item that your people were looking for might be a good way to open up better relations with your people.
A noble effort.
But for
I
not, if
think
we,
perhaps... Sorry.
no, I was just gonna say for not if we can't even escape these damn tunnels.
You are closer to your escape than you realize. If I may, I am, shall we say, a delver of the soul, seer of fate, and the spirits of both the past and the future. Jürgen can attest if it would mean any more for you. I would like to do a delving of my spirits to see what the path is that lies before all of us, and that might help to sway our decisions at this time.
Don't let me interfere with your methods. As you're preparing your deck, Adelard, you feel something hitting your arm, like tung 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 tung.
Like tapping at it?
Yeah.
Well, what was that?
You look down, you see the one named Ferlin with the goggles. He's got like an extra little goggle in front of his goggles, and he's looking at it closely. He's like, "That's pretty good work. Is it magical or is it just mechanical?"
Little bit of both. And he's going to just, because he always gets a kick out of watching people's faces when he does it, he's just going to reach up and pop it off, hold it in his hand, and be like, "You're more than welcome to take a look at it. Just stay right here with it."
People usually kind of are very uncomfortable and kind of discomfited when you do that, but he looks like he's seen a marvel to end all marvels. He's like, "Magnificent! This is incredible!" And he grabs it and he starts asking you questions about it. He's like, "Do you find it more useful than the flesh and bone one? I would assume that it has some practicalities to it that would make it more useful than whatever you used to have in place."
Yeah, it lets me do a couple fun things, and makes me obviously punch things a little harder, and it's got a couple bells and whistles, and he kind of lifts up his pant leg and shows off his left leg as well, and he goes,
he squeals. "Ah!"
"Oh yeah, it's pretty interesting. If you hang around, might even get a chance to show you some of the tricks it can do."
But did you do this willingly? Was this a choice or?
Excuse me, this cave air is getting to me.
Oh, yeah, no. I understand. You should see where we come from. It's like just black smoke everywhere. It's impossible to breathe down there.
Yeah, I'm not liking this, and this is just dank and damp in here. But I was actually, I used to work with one of those Orkin companies up on the surface, and we were sent out to kind of keep an eye on this caravan. We were told, we're just taking, we're going from this one town, we're going over to this other place, and we're supposed to be just your basic sort of just, keep an eye on them and, shoo the bandits away. And we ended up going through this little pass, this little crag area. And next thing you know, we're getting ambushed left and right. And, we're fighting them off and everything like that. And then not quite sure. I mean, it's all kind of fuzzy, kind of hazy, but next thing you know, there's this flash of light, this huge explosion. I'm thrown, I don't even know how far. I mean, I was thrown just almost up on the side of the cliff there. Oh, ow. And
sorry, you okay?
Wake up and I'm all just, I'm all right, if you will. There's nothing much left on this side, and it was just kind of everybody was all dead and not moving around, and it was insane. It was obviously something more bigger in that caravan than fabric and spices and stuff, but managed to kind of barely crawl my way out and try to get to some place, and then managed to get picked up and bandaged up a little bit, hung around on the streets for a while. But then I point over to Jürgen. I go, his sister actually found me and offered me a job, and got me set up with a couple guys who
Is she
kind
the
of
one who
like
made this? Is she the one who made these?
a what?
Is she the one who made these?
Not her, but she knows a couple people kind of like you, like to tinker and play with things and make things up. And next thing you know, they're fitting me for this bad boy in my leg here too. And ever since then, I'm just kind of hanging out with there, and she's where she tells me to do something, I feel like it's that sort of thing. I kind of owe her for giving me a reason to keep hanging around, basically.
Well, I find that fascinating. It shows a lot of character to keep going even when you basically have lost half of yourself. I certainly hope this small child who is sort of in a similar predicament can learn something from this, and perhaps like you grow to overcome these little deficiencies that he has. I think that shows great character on your part. This work reminds me of the work that Vorena used to do. Vorena was a friend of Jurgen's. She was a human, not an orcan, but she was a human. But she was very good at this sort of thing. Perhaps if you are looking for some updates at some point, you could ask Jurgen to introduce you to Vorena. She seemed to be particularly adept at these sort of things, and this is marvelous work. But I think if you have the opportunity, it would probably be to your benefit to do this. But I stand in awe of you, sir. I stand in awe of you. This is wonderful that you've been able to find a way through and to arise out of all this challenge much stronger than before. Tong. It's very nice, very nice.
He takes it back, hooks it back on, and kind of gives him a nice mechanical thumbs up and goes, "Absolutely. You're officially my new favorite little rat dude. I like you, buddy. You're great."
I'm not a rat, but
Some have met you guys, so you guys are great.
I understand. You should hear the stories we hear about you guys. Here, and he pulls out a little can. Let me put some of this in the joints here. I think it'll help you out a little bit, and it'll lube up your joints, and you're like, hey man, yeah, it's like he's got some jigaloo going in there, And while this is going on, Aunulf, what are you doing?
Where is Aethelfled currently?
So she came down with you. She's sitting near the ramp that comes down. She's, sitting and kind of got her head down, sort of between her arms, sort of like this. And you can feel again that like she's really struggling as this thing inside of her keeps raging, and she's just sort of, she looks like she's just really on the verge of like losing it. Like she's just trying to keep it together, but she's sitting in a corner and not making much noise.
She doesn't appear to be having any interest in looking over towards the baby or anything.
No.
Okay.
She really feels like she's just struggling to kind of keep things together. Anything you'd like to do?
Yeah, I'm just listening to what's going on. Holding the child, just trying to wait mostly to see some wisdom from Avon, I believe.
As you're holding the child, Cora, the one who was introduced as Cora, the female Novich that's there, will come to you and she'll go, What do human children eat? Do you know?
I would assume same thing as most children.
Do you have a way to give him milk?
I don't believe I have anything on me to do that, no.
Oh, so your kind doesn't all have the ability. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm not too aware of exactly how you function. But I would certainly suggest if you get the opportunity, then perhaps to make sure you get some food. He seems a little bit undernourished, but I have this, and she pulls her bag around, and she'll pull out like this sort of very colorful scarf that looks like it's very thick and kind of, probably made of some sort of like weaving thing. She's like, I was wondering if it would be okay for me to place this around him to keep him warm. He's sure to catch a cold on in here. It's so damp. Would it be okay if I?
That would be fantastic. We actually didn't even have enough equipment for ourselves, not expecting to be out in the cold and the blizzard for any real time. We got rushed out of the place we were at due to some dangerous circumstances, so we were lucky to survive ourselves through the blizzard and the cold. So yes, not equipped to take care of other people, especially children in our current equipment state. So that would be great.
But do you think it was luck, or you obviously were looking for this child and you found him in the middle of a cavern somewhere?
Well, it's certainly fate. I definitely believe in that. However, as we started this venture, we had no idea that this was the direction we were going, so we are slightly ill-prepared. But yes, we will take whatever assistance that you have to help us with this.
All right. As she finishes putting the little sort of scarf, and you can see the kid's already like kind of cozy or whatnot. He almost looks like he's gonna sort of fall asleep. Says, "Well, I'm happy we found you. I don't think that it would have been good for him to stay with us too long. Hopefully, you can get him back to where he belongs, his family, or so on and so forth. I'm glad we ran into you."
I as well. Then we can hopefully continue on our journey, and you can continue on your journey.
And as that particular conversation is going, I'm getting to you, Miko, in a moment. As that particular conversation is going on, Eric's will sidle up to you as Avon is prepping his cards and all that. He'll sidle up to Jurgen and go, so how did you end up here?
Long story short, I ended up back in prison. My sister decided to take me out of prison and give me a job. And then one thing leads to another. Your clansmen are kind of garrisoned and forced against you, and then you flee that garrison or that army, and you take shelter in a set of ruins that you're assailed by ghosts, and then you get approached by a supernatural fox who quests you to find a child while you're on a quest to find the perfect vessel, hereby saving the world. What about you?
You lead a very interesting life here, Ganastara. I mean, I thought my life was interesting, but your life is something else. Do these men, your compatriots, do they know how much of a hero you are and how you're revered?
No, they still consider me a miscreant and the little brother, even though none of them say it to my face. I know it gets said. But no, if you'd like to talk me up, by all means, please do.
Don't. And he turns around. Don't you? Didn't Jurgen tell you what happened in Asphodel? How him and his friends, heroes, saved thousands of lives. This man is literally a hero. We still speak of Jurgen and Verena and Quintus and Sigrid back home. Our debt to these four is immeasurable. I would likely be dead, and the rest of my people would, the ones that still harbored hope for peace, would very likely have been crushed by now by the other Noviks who served the black and the white speakers. I hope you realize what a great thing he and his friends have done.
I'm sure in time, maybe in time, I'll live up to their expectations.
Well, you did say that your society was very demanding.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well, never doubt that. Sorry.
Oh yeah, no, I was gonna agree. It's pretty demanding. Not gonna lie.
Well, never doubt what you accomplished in Asphodel, and never doubt that we, and he mentions to hold you in the highest regards and the highest esteem.
Well, if I can't seem to find my place in my own society, at least I'll know I'll have a place in yours.
And you've seen our prisons, so you know what to expect.
Yeah, Tartarus is a little bit worse off than our prisons up there. Not gonna lie. You were
And
in a
that
shitty
jailer
prison.
with the mouth and the stomach, that was a little bit out of control, I felt.
And we usually don't have gaolers down up there. It might behoove you to take a chance if you ever get a chance. Just check out our prisons. Not saying we're going to send you to one, but it might be a good comparison.
I'll make sure to get it, put it on my to-do list if we ever get out of these tunnels. Which, speaking of which, Mr. Spirit Speaker, have you figured out which way we're going?
I shall hopefully be able to provide at least a measure of guidance to the decisions that have to be made. If I could ask, though, everything is being pulled in many directions at present. And if I could ask, Aunulf and Adelhard, please stand over here to my left with the child. Jürgen, if you could stand near the flame, I would appreciate. And I will orient so that they are behind me. And you, my small friend, and your companions, if you could stand to my right. And I will put myself like in the center of this forming triangle.
All right, I don't remember all the directions you gave, but that's fine. We're not going to worry too much about the tokens.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
So there are three ways that you can see, just so you know. There is this way, which is the one that they pointed to, that they've gone down and had that sort of weird mausoleum thing. There's another tunnel that goes out this way, and then there's another one that continues here, and you guys came from this one, obviously.
Right. With the trio of, powerful spirits, energy around me, I will lower myself down to the ground upon my knees, and I will pull out my spirit deck, and I will just begin idly changing the position of cards within it without looking at the deck itself, just not necessarily shuffling, but, pulling out sections of cards and placing them on top for a few moments. And then, similar but not quite as powerfully perhaps as my last reading in front of the living flame, my eyes will begin to drift a little bit into that direction of no longer having a pupil as they become cloudy and somewhat difficult to discern. And I will place the spirit deck down in front of me, and lowering my hand down without even touching one of the cards rises up. And I will look at it for a moment and then place it down in front of me in a particular position, leaning more to the left. And I will say, the maw, inverted, implying death. Consternated, I will quickly reach down and pull a different, another card similar as before, just materializing in my hand. Clarity. The attendant, placing it on top of the maw, implying liberation. Certain death, but not without merit. And then I will draw another one. The hearth. Upright. as if a sword. Drawing another. Ah, yes. Fitting the silver blade, indicating a homecoming, but not without conflict. One more path, I think. Drawing a fifth card. Another inverted card, the river. Unsettling. The final card pulls up, stares at it for several long moments. Another inverted eye. Things are in flux. There is too much unsettled, too much uncertainty. Everything is shrouded if we were to return. Stand and gather the cards, and my eyes return to their normal abnormalcy. And I will glance back and forth between each of the groups, the trios that I have arranged. We all have decisions to make regarding the path that we take now. There is one obvious that can be deadly, but would be freeing for someone potentially in need. Another that will lead to a returning, a gathering, a homecoming, as it were, but will also involve a great conflict. And then to return, perhaps, back the way from hence we came. Too much uncertainty to know what will happen along that path. We caution you each now the decisions that we all have to make for ourselves as to what you find most important. You're muted.
Is it normal that my fur is standing on end? I feel like ghost just walked right through me. Ugh.
They did. And they do more often than you might think.
Eric says,
Yeah,
well, sounds cheerful.
Honestly, we all feel like that every time he gives us one of these readings, but I know what you mean. Yeah.
Do they usually prove fairly accurate?
Well, as much as I hate to admit it, and he looks over towards Avon and just kind of gives him one of those nods. He's like, as much as it pains me to say, he has yet to steer us wrong when it comes to those things.
Fate is never wrong, only the actions that we might take once we know what fate has in store.
Well, I think that for our part, we'll likely go back the way we came and try to find another way to this keep we seek. But if there's a way we can help you, if you wish us to go somewhere else to bring a message or to do something, we certainly don't mind doing what we can to help you. We're not going to go back down that way. There's nothing but death down that tunnel, and we still have much to do for our people. But if there's a way we can help you, we will do what we can.
Didn't we learn earlier that the child had been taken by the Grey Eldrin? Yes.
That's what you had been told, yeah.
Okay. And so
The child was clearly not being taken down towards the death place by a group of Noviks.
So the path that the Noviks with the child were coming from, perhaps the Grey Eldrin either lie up the path they were coming from or down the path they were going to. Either way, it would behoove us to investigate on the off chance that we may come into contact with the pierced vessel once more.
Well, we didn't see any Grey Eldrin, but down that way, and he points down the tunnel that you indicated as homecoming with a conflict. Down that way, there's an ice cave, and there were people there. We didn't interact with them, but there was an Orkin and a very short human with a beard.
Lakenir and Elvig, probably. If
We
I had
don't
to
know where
guess.
they were, but they seem to have taken shelter from the blizzard in a cave that's down that direction, a few hours walk down that way.
I don't need the spirits to tell me that's probably my sister. Well, it's good to know that they're all right. I mean, we haven't seen them since the blizzard. But it is concerning that the Noviks were taking the child to this place of impending doom and death. And I'm pretty sure Avon's last seance, we'll call it, denoted the child of great importance to our quest. Probably should go see if there's Grey Eldrin down the path that the Noviks were going. I do kind of like the hero thing. I mean, it's better to be known as a hero than as a miscreant. Just saying, okay? Hear me out. It's a little bit nicer, and you're not in prison as often.
Adelhard
Yes,
walks
that
over.
depends on who you're being a hero for.
Adelhard kind of stands there and looks at Jurgen and goes, you know what being a hero gets you normally? And he raises up his metal hand and he goes, worse than this.
A round of applause. That's exactly what it gets you. Good job.
Your sister told me I couldn't hit you. So you're lucky. I'm just saying I'm here to help you wherever you're going, but I'm letting you know it's not always worth it trying to be a hero. Most people trying to be heroes end up dead or worse.
Well, when you've spent a fair amount of your life making mistakes, you have to at least try and make up for it somehow.
May I say something, says Aethelfled.
Of course, you have just as much a decision to make as we.
I don't know how much longer I can keep this. If I lose control and what happened in my father's keep happens again, I think it would be best if I was somewhere where it could at least do some good. There's a place of darkness and death down there who are interested in this child. I think that's probably a good place for me to do one last good act before I have to relinquish this place. I'm afraid, but I can't control this much longer. I think my path lies down that way, but there's no reason for any of you to die also. You should consider bringing the child back to Lacrimae, or at least go to your sister with the child. I'll go down as far as I can, and when I can't hold it anymore, I'll let it go, and hopefully something good can come of it. I don't know how far I'll go, but none of you need to die also.
For some, death might belie, rather. an end. But for one such as myself, I know better. And I do not fear, and have not felt the fear of death in many, many years. What of the rest of you?
I, too, would choose death and liberation, as uncertainty and conflict, again, go against my personal code and beliefs. That's chaos to me. The other's much clearer, much more focused, and that is what I would desire as well.
I'll turn to look at the Ratkin guy in armor, whose name I constantly am going to forget. Eric's, yes. I will turn and look at him, and I will say, your fate is tied to decisions that you have already made in seeking to perhaps not be looked upon so poorly by those of us that live upon the surface. I cannot say if the actions that I might request of you would help with clarity, but I can say that the spirits of fate would look favorably upon you if you might do us a favor and take the child to the patron that is tasked with seeing it safe.
That is very little to ask of us who owe Jurgen and the others so much. It is but a trifle, and we would certainly see this done.
Jurgen, I know you long for your reunion with your sister, but perhaps I could implore you to know that your heroism could be served facing a greater evil than you are perhaps believing you are prepared for.
I think with the potential of finishing what we started, and he'll turn to RX back in what it was called, the Undercity, if I'm not mistaken.
Asphodel.
Sorry.
Okay.
And potentially helping Aethelfled if the purest vessel does lie where death and liberation does, then I think that's the better choice. And I'm sure Elvig would appreciate that choice.
And what of you, Adelhard? What would your decision be?
Adelhard just stands there looking at all you guys out there talking about, going off and fighting and, taking a look and seeing what can happen. And he goes, I've been through a lot. I've been a warrior, been a soldier, and been a bodyguard, and now I'm supposed to be here and keeping an eye on that guy. And he points over at Jurgen and he goes, and you dumbasses are all talking about barreling headfirst into battle, trying to see what you can do to help save the world. So you know what? He looks over to the Arix and his guys and goes, favor, either, after you drop the child off. Could you do us a quick favor? And he reaches up and on his outfit, it's got the Madame Astara's, company logo on there. And he's one that he's worn on his arm for the longest time. He reaches up and he rips it off and he goes, "Can you do us a favor after you deliver the child up to its patron? Could you take this to that Orkin and that short-bearded human that you saw down in the caves and give that to them and tell them that I'll be back to pick this back up from them," and hands it to him.
It'll be an honor to do so.
All right. Then Adelhard will grab his axe from where it was standing on the floor, fling it up, drop it on his shoulders, and he goes, "All right, boys, once more into the breach, I guess."
I know, Adelhard, that I do not need to remind you of these things. Just because the card says death, remember, it does not say whose.
Adelhard just gets this big smile. One of his tusks is broken off. You can obviously tell he's all scarred up. He just gives this big old grin. His arm starts to glow a little bit, and his axe kind of vibrates, and he goes, "Oh, I know, buddy. And we're gonna do our darndest to make sure it's not ours, right? But if it is, let's go down swinging."
You all do much honor and to the people of the surface, and you certainly reinforce my desire to wish to entreaty with them peacefully. I hope we all get to meet again someday in some other circumstance. But until then, we will speak of all of you the same way we speak of Jürgen and Borena and the others, with the utmost respect and reverence, and we will continue our own fight to ensure that our people choose the way of peace rather than the way of death. It's been a pleasure knowing you. We will take care of the child, bring him to your patron, and then I will deliver this medallion to the lady in the cave myself, and we will try to see them safe also. Thank you, and he'll come around and he'll shake each of your hands. All right,
As
then.
he shakes Avon's hand, knowing that, it won't last long, but hopefully is kind of like a arcane thanks, as it were. He's going to cast guidance upon Eric's, just so he can feel Avon will gesture it as, "May the spirits watch you as you go on this mission."
And as you shake his hand and do that, you get the feeling that as much as the human child has a tumultuous but potentially meaningful future ahead of him, so too does this particular Novix, Arix, and you get the feeling that the choices you've made today and the parts you've played today, regardless of what happens next, will certainly play a big part in his future and what he will do. So your decisions will have some repercussions down the road. It's like you're a strange one, stranger than even that one, points at Jürgen over there, but it was a pleasure meeting you nonetheless. And as he moves around, the other one, Ferlin, will come around and go, "Here, maybe you can use these," and he'll pull out a little pouch, and it's got a row of potions, and it's like, if you end up getting injured, these might perk you up a little bit and help you fight on. It's not much, but I'd like you to have them, and he'll give you guys each a healing potion, which we'll deal with at the break in a moment. As you guys get ready with Aethelflaed, who's looking more and more like on the verge of losing it, the Noviks will say goodbye to you all. They will, Cora will come back and take the child from you off, and she said, I'll see him safe. Don't you worry, I'll die before this child dies. And they'll say their goodbyes to you, and they'll climb up that little ramp that you came and go back the way that you had come originally. And in moments, the five of you will be left alone in this cave with a direction that you've chosen. And we'll see what happens there after the break, as we will now take a few minutes to refresh ourselves and read up on death save rules and how those things work. And and we'll come back in a few moments, in a few minutes, to continue this and see where it all ends. Thank you very much for sticking with us.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. What is this? Netflix? Da-tong. We'll see you in a bit. Thank you very much. See you in a minute. Well, that was a good nap. I feel pretty refreshed. How do you guys feel? Ready to rock and roll? Rock and roll. All right. Let's dive right back into it. So you've made the decision after finding the child that you've been sent to find quite fortuitously, very quickly and without much trouble, which never happens in these games. You have decided to follow Aethelflaed, the Living Flame, who has decided that since it's very likely that she's going to die anyways with this power inside of her, she would rather unleash it on some bad guys than somewhere where it's not going to matter too much. So she had decided to follow a road that Avon's cards had, Avon's reading of his cards that told you led to some certain death, but also to some liberation. You have given the child to the Noviks that you met, Arix and his crew, and asked him to return the child to Lacrame and then to bring a message to Aelvig about where you are and sort of what's been going on, and to bring Adelard's medallion of the Astara family crest to her, promising to come back and get it at some point. And have continued to make your way down that tunnel where the Noviks had told you they had come across a very, very intense and powerful necrotic aura. And as you've gone down the path, and it isn't very far down, even though you don't have the potion of necrotic, what's the word I'm looking for?
Detection.
That Ferlin supposedly had, you can't help but feel a lot of unease as you enter into this strange cave here. That looks like,
if I may,
yes,
as we're entering, I can cast and will actually cast the Detect Evil and Good.
Okay. So as you cast Detect Evil and Good, I will tell you this. You get flickers of both in and around you. But ahead of you, if you look on the map, you see there's a kind of over there at the front, there's a kind of statue there, and it sort of stands in front of a doorway. You can tell that there is an incredible source of evil behind that door, but it is muted, so there is some kind of spell or protective aura around this door that is really kind of keeping things sealed in. When you approach the door and look at it, I would like all of you to give me a history check. Oddly enough.
Five.
Yeah, no.
15.
21.
Wow. All right. So both Adelard then and Avend, you will see that one of the symbols that's placed on this door, on this sort of weird statue that is keeping in front of the door, is the skull and crown that was the emblem, the yellow skull and crown on a black field that was the emblem of the Necro King back in the day. His flag that you remember seeing, and I can show you his flag. His flag looked something like this. It's very small now, but I'm about to embiggen it. And you recognize the symbol as that of the Necro King. And the first thought that comes to your head is that if this is the tomb, and if there are protective magics that are keeping, powerful protective magics that are keeping whatever's inside, and that there's such an evil, not only of aura, not only of evil, but of necrotic power, the pretty simple deduction is that this is quite possibly where the Necro King was buried after his defeat over 50 years ago. Do you wish to turn around?
No, but I will turn to my companions and caution them. This is a place of very hallowed evil associated to the Necro King. It has been laying this way for some decades now, I would think. We should tread lightly.
And so, as you approach the door, I will ask those of you who are proficient in Arcana to go ahead and make a roll.
Can I use guidance on this?
You can.
30-20.
Anybody else rolling, or just you? Nobody else? All right. You approach the door, and as you approach it, you can clearly see that there are sigils of power that have been carved in the door. These are sigils that basically lock this door and provide the security, the arcane security, to keep this place confined and sealed. You certainly feel a very powerful pulsing aura of necrotic energy coming from behind it. With your roll, which was quite high, you can decipher the runes that have been inlaid here. And what they say is no living or dead, no flesh, magic, or spirit may open this door.
Interesting. After reading this, I will stare several long moments at Adelhard and his arm. But I won't say anything.
Adelhard, who has been kind of, scanning the room, because, a magic door, he doesn't know much else about it. He's been scanning the room, trying to see, if he sees anything, trying to sneak up on him or anything. And
this place looks like it hasn't been disturbed in a very long time. The only tracks you saw coming in were the tracks of the Noviks that you just left, which you saw came all the way about not even to where you were before they turned around. They were like, nope.
He notices Avon looking at him, and he goes, "Whoa, what? What is it?"
Nothing. I just don't think that the original individuals that secured this door with their powerful enchantments had you in mind.
He looks at the door and he goes, "Well, okay. So what do we think? Do we need to go in there? Or we need to open the door? Do we want to, I don't know, pile some rocks in front of it, keep it from opening ever again? What are you thinking?"
Unless something were to happen in our presence, I think it will be quite some time before this door opens.
It looks
I
like
think we should look up.
No, please go ahead.
I think we should continue searching and see what else we can find. As there's something else afoot, I think.
And Aethelflaed says, if I lose it and I explode in this cavern outside of this door, I'm going to be really disappointed with myself and with all of you. So please find some way to make this worthwhile. So
you
can
had said before, just so I, Miko, am more clear on this. You had said before that there is a vessel somewhere for the living flame. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I am going to pull out my spirit deck, retrieving one of the cards, and it will vanish. And I'm going to cast Locate Object, and I'm going to attempt to see if anywhere within 1,000 feet of me that vessel exists.
So, not within 1,000 feet, but you will get a brief glimpse as the card vanishes and you cast a spell. You will notice that the card that you pulled is a card that's called the Keep, and there is a dark fortress built on a mountainside is the illustration of it. And you will get a sense that somewhere there is, in fact, as Eric's had spoken of, a dark fortress, and that is where perhaps this thing is, but it is not within 1,000 feet.
Okay. Is there an additional path that we can take out
You
of
can
this
do
space?
some, give me some investigations or some observation rolls, if you will.
I'll have that spell up for the next 10 minutes unless something changes, just FYI.
Perception rolls all around.
Or investigation, if that's your forte.
Dirty 20 on perception.
Same.
18 for me.
I'm opening my emergency pack of dice because the other dice are just killing me. They're killing me.
The man as an emergency pack of dice. But all right, the rest of your rolls are good enough. So you do realize that the Noviks were coming here with the child. So, ostensibly they had a way to get into this place if this is where they were going. And so when you start looking around, you do notice that there are alternate means of getting down. So over here, you can see there are stairs, there's rope there, there's another rope that goes down to a lower level there. And, you know, this branch also goes down to there. It is possible that further down somewhere, the Noviks had a way of getting into this place without having to open that door. It does involve climbing down into that darkness there.
Jürgen, do you think that you can find us the safest route down?
Well, if it's anything like that one jeweled crown I had to steal from a keep, and I had to climb a couple stories to get it, sure, yeah, why not? I think I could manage.
So what are you going to do? Where are you going to go?
I'm going to try for the branch approach and see where that leads, using my passive perception in case I notice anything that would lead me to another path.
So give me a athletics or acrobatics, whatever you prefer.
Athletics. I'm going to use my inspiration. That's better. 16.
Okay, so you manage to slide down that branch and find yourself, or that giant root, and find yourself on that platform. What you notice once you're there is that from this platform, first of all, you notice that there's another access to down here, which is over here. There's kind of like a little hole, and you can see some of the light that comes in through there. So there's probably a way of getting down that chute there and coming up here. There's nothing else around here, though. The only other thing that you can see is if you jump a little lower, you could reach this particular platform. Then if you jump lower still, you might reach that platform. There might be things down there, but there's nothing in the immediate area here. You would have to keep going. That particular rope allows someone to sort of come over this platform and draw down. So they obviously had like 2 or 3 different ways to get down.
Do all of these methods of getting to perhaps that lowest level look like there's chance of failure and imminent death?
Yes.
Okay. I'm assuming we're all readied adventurers and we all have some form of rope in some pack or another. And if we're able to, I'd like to suggest to the group to use some rope to tie an anchor point off as I manage to traverse downwards. And if I can secure another anchor point or something, it would make it easier for those of us who are less skilled in athletics or acrobatics to get to that point.
So you could repurpose this rope if you wanted. So other ways. So there's another rope that goes across there that leads to another rope here that can go down there. So there's like that way also that someone could, you know, if they want to jimmy across that rope and then slide down that rope, you could repurpose this rope to leave it attached at one end and then attach it to you so that if you fall, you'd be swinging down here, perhaps. Something to that.
Our intention is to get to this pathway right here.
That seems to be the only other place where there might be other ingress or egress.
I will tell everyone that is not Jürgen, because Jürgen's not with us close enough now, to follow me, and I will walk us over to this edge.
Mm-hmm.
And I will simply tell everyone, how far down is that pathway from the spot?
40 feet, maybe 50 feet.
I will tell everyone to jump. And on the count of 3, we all hopefully will jump. And anyone that does jump with me, I will cast Featherfall so that we glide down to it.
Oakley dokley. Who jumps? How much trust does an Avon?
Jumping.
How far from there?
It's about 40-ish, 40 feet down.
You could get a new leg, Adelhard.
Yeah, Adelhard jumps.
All right. Aethelflaed will also, although she's feeling a little bit kind of weak and
Rope
not too sure of it.
And-
But
between us, so then we all at least will kind of stay together as we're falling in case somebody, happens to lose their footing. And obviously we all land fine, but, just in case.
okay. And Jurgen, how do you get out there? As they've all gone and just jumped, leaving you behind.
Come on, hero.
Yeah.
Hurry up.
Not all of us are blessed with magic or gods. Yeah, I guess I'll use the little portion of the branch that gets to the next platform, and then if I need to, and then I guess leap and or jump using the rope that you had mentioned earlier to kind of give myself a harness in case I fail. I can roll another athletics check if you'd like to leap across.
Yeah, so I'm not gonna worry about that too much. You'll jump across, and just as you sort of leap across and kind of hit the side and kind of almost go scrambling, Adelhard grabs you with his arm and just lifts you up and pulls you in safe. Not a problem. And as you look around this area, you do notice that there is a tunnel that has been dug out over here. It is very narrow because the Noviks are much smaller than you guys are. But you do notice that there is a kind of tunnel that you could try to shimmy through that looks like it sort of leads in this general direction.
Well, gentlemen, I guess the path before us is chosen. Adelhard, you might want to take off your arm to fit.
So to get
Think.
through there, if you're wearing heavy armor and have any weapon bigger than a short sword or a hand axe or something like that, you're gonna have to come up with a way of dragging these things behind you, because you won't fit. The Noviks are like really small compared to you guys. They're like 4.5 foot tall, very, very sort of skinny and used to kind of going through these things. So just, I'm not going to make you do like a million types of rolls, but give me one good explanation of how you do it. And
Adelhard looks at the hole and looks down at his fact that he has, a battle axe and a half plate armor, and he goes, "Really?" And so he's gonna take off the armor and that rope that he had tied the four of us together. So take that rope, tie a rope around his axe, and kind of making it into a little bundle. And he's gonna go, "Don't worry, I'll go first." And he'll kind of crawl in the hole, because I mean, he's probably the biggest guy out of all of them. Big old guy, crawls in basically half naked, but pulling the rope with his axe and his armor behind him, kind of army crawling on his shoulders, kind of just trying to get through this hole.
Jurgen would like to grab the rope as he's trying to crawl through first and pull him back and say, "Yes, let's let the unarmored, half-naked man who has to put all of his items back on and doesn't know a thing about stealth goes first into an unknown area."
He tries to turn his head around, but of course he's already half in the tunnel. So then he just shimmies out, stands up, still, an imposing looking figure, looks at the guy and looks at Jurgen and goes, "After you!" And then just kind of stands back, just probably, half covered in dirt from not having a good day. And just kind of stands there like this.
Jurgen will proceed first into the hole, as he's probably a little bit better fit for the hole, and he can keep all of his equipment on because it's small and light.
All right,
And
so give me a athletics.
sure.
Just to squeeze through all that stuff.
25.
All right. With ease. So you will crawl through this tunnel, and at some point it kind of goes up a little bit, and then it kind of turns around and you realize it's going around like roots and things like that in the earth that are kind of in the way. And as you pop out, even though you're not magically active and you're not super attuned to it, you do feel a very oppressive a feeling of like, you know, kind of doom sort of weighing down on you. There's obviously something sort of major happening. And we'll assume you guys will all manage to get through, so we'll just skip ahead and go to the next map.
And I would like to stealth, if at all possible.
No problem. So you will find yourself emerging well, hold on. Where was the emerging point that I want to? Yeah, I guess that's it. You will find yourself emerging there on this little shelf, and you are in what appears to be some sort of fortification, or perhaps like a foundations of some ancient building. Obviously, this is not a foundation of something that's on the surface. It's the foundations are like perhaps even a courtyard or something like that, but it's definitely a building or a construction that was here thousands of years ago that has basically not been disturbed really in that time, except for you can clearly see traces of Noviks that have come and gone, and a lot of the detritus that you see around is like the leftovers of camps made by Noviks in the past, however long they've been coming here. It doesn't seem to be very long, perhaps a couple of years at most. And so there's a lot of refuse and detritus of that thing. And in the middle of this room, you see this giant black obelisk. And all of this power that you're kind of feeling, this oppressive sort of humming, thrumming, pulsing power seems to be coming from it. As you can see, energy sort of move up and down this thing. It is cracked in a lot of places. It looks damaged, and what you see looks like it's the top of it, and that there's probably even more of it buried down into the earth deep below.
As my companions are coming up behind me, I'll turn to Avind and in a low voice just say, well, I think we've found it.
Indeed.
Is everybody else going in?
So, yes. I will follow very quickly after Jurgen, in fact.
Okay. Avind, and probably Adelard to a certain degree, but certainly Avind. This reminds you of something you've seen in the Cadwall Highlands, which is the Dverg country that it's connected to. So you remember you were on the keep where you were at is on the border between the Cadwall Highlands and Harukin. And from expeditions or excursions you would have made in the Cadwall Highlands before, like I said, we know that Avon has seen this, perhaps Adelard also, but you know that there are giant obelisks similar to this one that are spread in different parts of the Cadwall Highlands. Wherever these obelisks exist in the Cadwall Highlands, there are what the Dverg there called shatter storms. So there are strange storms and magical occurrences that occur that happen around these obelisks. You might have seen a couple of them, and each of them that you've seen have very specific markings on them that tie them to some of the elements. So you might have seen like the earth one or the fire one, and whatever area that obelisk is in, and all of them look kind of damaged and broken in some way, shape, or form. There are occurrences of storms of that element. So around the fire one, there are constantly firestorms and fire rains and eruptions of lava around it, even though, just a mile away from it, there's a perfectly beautiful highlands in the area around there. It causes these weird sort of storms of that element that rip through the area once in a while. And throughout the Cadwell Islands, in fact, it is known for these strange weather phenomena that occur throughout the land. And so, as I said, certainly you, Avend, as we know from your background, you would have encountered some of these. And this one looks very similar to that. It looks to be a similar type of construction, except this one seems to be tied in some way, shape, or form to death rather than to a natural element, although death in some ways is kind of a natural element, I guess. But that's your reading of this, and you feel pretty certain that when you had met the shades upstairs in the ruins, you had been told by Lacrimate that there was a power that was preventing the spirits from moving on, and you get the feeling that this is probably it. This obelisk is probably the power that it does. It probably keeps anything that is dead from straying away from it, from moving away from it. So whatever would have been buried in here would have been forced in its afterlife form to stay here, and unfortunately it has radiated up and has caused other such beings in the area, notably the soldiers that died in the ruins in the tower upstairs, to also have been prevented from moving on to their future rest. And you kind of figured this is what's causing that particular effect. I do want to point out that there is a passageway that leads out there also in this area.
Avend just will not stop staring at this obelisk, and not one to normally present like any kind of too extreme emotion. You all can plainly see the heinous amounts of distaste and hatred that Avend has just staring at this thing. It almost radiates off of him.
I want to say also that Aunulf, as a cleric of the light, you also feel like very uncomfortable here. This is a place that very much goes against, almost everything that you are, really. It's a place of darkness and all that, but it's also a place that prevents, nature from taking its course, that prevents life from doing what it's supposed to do, which is to eventually die and move on and do something else. So it's a very sacrilegious place in many ways, because it perverts the course of nature.
Is this an item we can destroy?
It's pretty massive. Like, the scale of the image doesn't do it justice, but this thing is ginormous. And like I said, it looks like it continues down into the ground. Like, this is just the tip of the iceberg, so to speak. This thing has been here for a long time.
I was just going to say Jurgen's going to just very briefly go down the other path just a little bit to kind of scout it while trying to stay out of sight in case there's friend or foe ahead.
So when you go and scout down the area, it opens up into a vast room. And before you get to that room, you smell right away the charnel smell of death, the smell of blood, of putrefied flesh. And as you approach, you see a cavernous room. The floor is covered in puddles of blood. There are skeletons and half decomposed corpses sort of all over the area, all over the room. And at the other end of it, there's another set of doors. So you see the doors that you guys didn't go through at the beginning. Like you can see the back of them, like you can figure out geographically where they're situated. And when you, we'll come back to this particular map later. When you step into this room, you find yourself here, coming down this hall. And these here are the doors that you would have come through originally. And then this room, as I said, is also ancient, filled with skeletons, filled with decomposing bodies, this huge puddle of blood. And over here is another set of doors, and carved into the door itself is the sign of the Necro King again. And perhaps somewhat to your dismay, you notice that the doors are ajar.
Jurgen's going to quickly jaunt back to the party with a little bit of haste.
Meanwhile, back in the other room, while Jurgen is off scouting, what are you guys doing?
What's
Adelhard
doing?
sees, Gabe and Aunulf looking at this obelisk, and you're gonna notice that they both, do not have their normal, either cool, composed exterior like Aunulf, or is just giving off his normal weird vibes that Avon normally gives off, and he's like, "You guys okay?" And while he's doing that, he's also kind of scanning. He's Adelhard is kind of walking around, giving quite a bit of distance after putting all his stuff back on. Quite a bit of distance from the obelisk, but he is kind of walking around the outer edge of the room, just trying to see if he can see any other signs of life or unlife, or any other way to escape if something were to happen, because he doesn't think that probably he'll have enough time to take all his stuff off again to crawl back out the tiny hole.
So as you're doing that, give me a perception check. Aunulf, what are you doing while he's doing that?
I'm very disturbed with this obelisk, and will slowly rotate around it, just looking at it. Just
I got it.
look of disgust on my face.
Is there anything you want to do, any skill checks you want to make, or are you just going to keep an eye on things?
I mean, I can try a either passive perception or perception check just to see if I notice any weakness, crack, anything that I think I could do to perhaps weaken this thing a bit.
Right. So give me a perception check. Also, I'm sorry, Adelard, what did you get?
21.
Okay. So hold on to that for a second.
22.
Okay. So this obelisk, first of all, looks made of a material you've never encountered before. At first you thought maybe it was rock, but when you get closer to it, it doesn't appear to be rock or metal. It's very difficult to tell what exactly it's made of, but it looks really not something you've ever encountered before, but it looks heavily damaged. It looks old and weathered and cracked and damaged. And you get the feeling that it's probably possible to damage this. Now, whether or not this would have any sort of major impact. You don't know. Certainly there's enough power here that if this thing were to be damaged, and in fact, probably the fact that there is so much power that you can feel around it is because it's already damaged, that damaging it is a very dangerous proposition. It could probably be done, but you can pretty much guarantee that, you know, you're not going to want to be standing next to it if it happens. And Adelard, as you're going around the room and sort of scoping out the area, the first thing is you don't find any other way out. It's either through the passageway that Jurgen just went down, or back the way you came through the birth canal. And as you're pondering this and realizing that not a lot of escape routes, you're starting to kind of find it odd that the shadows don't seem to actually conform to where they should be based on where the light is coming in. And it almost feels as if some of them are more tangible than others, almost as if they're moving perhaps, or sort of wakening up.
So Adelard's gonna kind of keep his eye on those shadows that are kind of not moving right, and he's gonna kind of step backwards back towards the others. They're gonna notice that his arm is now starting to kind of radiantly glow a little bit from the gift, and be like, he's gonna very slowly, but you know, kind of unthreateningly, but also, you know, protectively, he's going to reach back with his other arm and grab his battle axe and just kind of very slowly bring it down to his side as he's backing up back towards kind of the group. And he's like, fellas, we're not alone in here. Shadows are starting to do something funny.
Avent.
And he's going to back up.
Okay. Avent.
As Adelard was starting to look around the room, I think Haven probably approached the obelisk and was reaching out a hand to contact the surface of it when Adelhard gave his warning, and that kind of shook him out of his focus for a moment, and he pulls his hand back and begins to look about the room at what Adelhard was noticing.
You, I also think that as someone who has contacts with spirits and so on and so forth, and I'm sure you've already made this connection in your head, but this place, the spirits that do sort of whisper and talk to you here dislike this thing. Of course, they want to be able to move on and go where they're supposed to go. So this place is literally a prison for them. And as you are attuned to these things, you do realize that there are quite a number of them trapped in here, and they're very unhappy. At that moment, Jurgen, you return from the other room to find these guys kind of staring at shadows and acting a little spooked out.
Guys, if you hate this, you're not gonna like what's back there. Pretty sure this isn't the tomb. This is something else. Still probably not good. The tomb is definitely back this way.
As Jurgen comes in, Avent will look about at everyone and sigh heavily. Perhaps we should venture to this other room then, and leave this behind for now. And he'll start walking towards Jurgen.
What do the rest of you do?
Adelhard nods and just kind of keeps walking backwards, keeping his eyes kind of on the shadows, trying to watch the shadows. And
You feel like you're being watched. Same way you're watching.
that. So he's probably going to let everybody kind of start working their way towards the door into the next room, and he's going to be the last one, probably one of the last ones through the door back into the other way, and just kind of like, scanning the room, kind of getting a little, on edge, getting ready to, just in case something were to jump out at us. Yeah, let's get out of here. This place is creeping me out.
And as we walk together out of here, I will start to say, my Orcan brothers, sister, this place feels evil. There's a darkness around. We're seeing things horrible at all points. But I believe the light inside of us and the power we have and the fates behind us are going to bring us through this, give us strength, and show us the way to succeed. Only by our willpower and our faith in ourselves are we going to be able to survive this dark horror that we find ourselves in. As I cast motivational speech on all of us, which gives everyone 5 temporary hit points, advantage on wisdom saving throws, and if you are hit by an attack, you have advantage on the next attack roll that you make. This lasts for an hour.
I think it also ends once you lose the temporary hit points.
Once you lose those 5 hit points, it goes away. Yes.
Yeah.
The attack or the wisdom saving throw?
The whole thing fades from you.
So don't lose the hit points.
Yes.
So
okay,
I know that this is going to potentially throw a wrench in the works of things, but as we are departing that room, I just feel like it's too important. Avend will grab Jurgen's arm, pull him back for a moment, place his spirit deck into Jurgen's hand, and say, "Hold this for a moment, young one," and just kind of push him forward in the path that everyone else is going before turning back towards the obelisk, taking a few steps towards it, going to cast Dispel Magic upon the obelisk, and then immediately follow that up with a Shatter spell.
Interesting. All right. So, let's see what
The
happens.
Dispel Magic is intended to perhaps weaken any, magical effects that it has protecting it, so that it takes as much power from the shatter, which is already double, against objects like that. Anyway, but
As you, before you do this, I will just ask to make sure that you took notice of the last message I sent you.
I did.
Okay.
I did. I don't think that is registering in his mind at the moment. He's so focused on the notion of the other spirits that are trapped here and the perversion of fate that has.
Okay. So how
he's playing his character.
Yeah, no, I'm totally down with all this. The Dispel Magic, how does it work against the level of the spell that it's trying to break, basically? Is there a level at which it just won't function, or is it just a matter of the dice roll?
It's a matter of a roll.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what does the difference in level between spellcasters do to that roll?
The level just sets the DC.
Yeah, but I mean, what is it? Like the difference between the two levels, or are you rolling against the level of the caster? I think you're rolling against the level of the caster, basically, right?
Level of the spell,
Level
not the
of-
level of the caster.
So it's something like 10 plus the level of the spell sort of thing?
Yeah.
So, well, let's start with that. Let's go ahead then and see if that nets you anything.
Just double check something here.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. That is going to be a total of 19.
Okay. So as you cast your Dispel Magic, and you were targeting, I'm sorry, because my brain was doing somersaults when you were talking. What were you targeting with the...
Any magical wards or protection that are radiating off of the obelisk.
So you cast your Dispel Magic, and you realize that there are none. Basically, there's no extra spells guarding this thing. The only thing that's guarding it is its own sort of integrity and magical structure, right? So there's no spell there to... Your Dispel was very powerful and it was well done, but there was nothing there for it. There's nothing external that's protecting the obelisk. So if you want to do your other spell after that, then do that. You're targeting the obelisk directly. There's no extra arcane protection around it. You kind of get the feeling there probably was at some point, but it's decayed in the enormous length of time that this thing has been there. How does the shatter work then?
It just deals damage to it, force damage, which I rolled 28.
Okay. So you cast your shatter. You feel the force of it hit this thing. It does hit. I'm assuming you would have targeted something that was already damaged. So it hits it, and you feel the crack go through it, and a chunk of whatever material this thing is made out of flies off and falls down, and you can see the inside of it is just this sort of swirl of darkness and motes of light that are just sort of spinning at an incredible rate. You can also see now through this crack that you've made that there are, the best way to describe them are mechanical parts in there that are moving. So this obelisk is a casing, basically, for something that's inside. You've blown off part of the casing, and now you can see the machinery inside. You feel a slight tremor and a slight tremble in the entire thing as the damage sort of takes hold. But it doesn't destroy the obelisk. It's still there. There's a chunk of it missing now. Back there, you guys hear a loud blasting noise and then a ripping sound. And then suddenly you can hear sort of like a loud humming noise that's coming from the room that you just left. So we'll go around here, each one of you. Tell me what you do following this, and I'll start with Avon. What is your follow-up action going to be?
Do I feel that I have sufficiently damaged it that time will have an effect on it now? More so than it has in the past.
You're definitely feeling that now that its innards are exposed, a lot can go wrong with it. Whether or not it's going to take a day, a week, a year, 10 years, 100 years, it's difficult to tell because it's being held together by magic. But the inner workings are now exposed, so who knows what could happen to it. Like if someone popped another spell in it, there might be some terrible things that happen. You have weakened it and you have shortened its life for sure. But to what degree, it just depends on sort of what happens around it. But the innards are now exposed and it is thus very vulnerable.
And I will turn back towards my companions and rejoin them.
So what do you guys do when you hear this sound? Did you guys turn around and come back, or are you just sort of assuming that Avon's being Avon? What's going on?
Well, Adelard was, kind of one of the last ones out of that room. Probably ended up passing Avon, walking backwards, kind of keeping an eye on the shadows. He probably was standing there, started walking into the other room, And then when Avon passed him to go back into the other room with the obelisk, and he's probably just like, Avon, where you go? As he walks by, so he probably would, turn around, look at the rest of the party there, and kind of be halfway in between both rooms. When he heard the shatter go off, he'd run into that room, hearing that shatter go off, and the chunk probably fall out and run in there. What the hell was that? Did you just shatter that thing?
I accelerated fate. Come, my friend. Let us hope that time resolves the matter on its own now.
Hold on a second, Ethan. Now we've worked together for a while now. You ever known me to leave a job half done?
No, my friend, but in this case, it is best if we proceed. If we accelerate things too quickly, we might not be able to control the result.
He looks back up at the machine, just looks at it and, all right, well, this magic stuff is your kind of, your thing, Let's, if you want me to come back here and finish it off, you just give me the word. I'll come back here and I'll stop that machine thing in there from working. Just give me the word, buddy. And he turns around and heads back into the other room.
You have more magic in your soul than you realize, my friend. As we go to rejoin the rest of the compatriots.
As you sorry, go for it.
Oh, I was just gonna say, Jurgen, after hearing and feeling this spell that Avon has cast, he's just going to, while holding his spirit deck, just kind of rub his temple and gets into character and goes, "Spirits, what has this meant for us?" and draws a card.
You draw a card, and the card that you pull is of, you see the image of a house, and the house is being built, but it appears unfinished. And in the meadows next to it is a man, obviously a worker, who's lying in the field and smelling some flowers, while birds and other things sort of flitter about him. And this card, Avon would be able to tell you, is a card that represents unfinished work, unfinished business, or laziness, or an unwillingness to attend to to matters at hand.
I'm just gonna hope it means I can go home.
Well, it is a nice meadow.
Yeah. He looks like he's having a good time as Avon comes back, and I put the deck back together and hand him the deck.
And as he does that, Ethelfled, who's looking really, really, really weak, I'll tell you, I think I can probably do a better job than that if that's what you really want to see happen.
I think we're still kind of hoping we can help you, Ethelfled. Let's keep that mindset going.
So you find yourselves again then in this charnel room of death here. And as I said, there is another door here that has the symbol of the Necro King on it, but this door is ajar. Not a jar, but ajar. You hear the whispering sound of wind rustling, or is it spirits that are moaning as you cross this room. And over here, as I was saying, is the door that you've avoided outside, basically, that leads to the outside. What do you wish to do?
Adelhard looks around the
Door.
Okay, wow. This is awful. What the heck? Can we go back in the other room with the shadows? Because this stinks. And this ain't good.
What? I thought you wanted to set up shop here and, start a business, maybe give people a hand.
Young one, there's a time and a place for a smart ass. This is it. This is a good time for that. Yeah, and he kind of chuckles and goes, "I'm gonna go look at that door. That looks like the one was closed outside, right?" And he's gonna head over towards that door, kind of keeping an eye out for any shadows or anything else that might jump out at him or jump out at us, and at least so.
This door here, that one. That's the door you're going for?
Just kind of walking that way, kind of slowly, and just kind of like keeping an eye out, scouting out, taking a look around and everything, yeah.
You can see shadows flitting across the ceiling and in the corners and serving the area. They seem to be much more active now and moving with much more of a purpose than they were earlier.
Hey, Aunulf, why don't you bless me or whatever it is and tell me that I'm not going to get killed walking over to this door to try and see if old Necro King is asleep or patiently waiting for the next corpse to walk by.
I will put my hand on his shoulder and say, "Move silently. Do not get killed here."
As you do this, you manage to cast a spell on it, but you definitely feel that there's like some interference and something kind of blocking your power a little bit. You managed to cast it, but it took a little bit more concentration and effort than it would normally have taken.
Are you having some like performance anxiety here, Aunulf? Is like your god not as strong here?
This place is evil.
Really?
It disrupts magic.
Fair enough. All right. Well, I'm a sneak and try and peer behind door number. Get the hell out of here.
So when you come to the door and sort of peer, you can see that there's like a short entranceway, and then there's like a wall there, and then there's like on either side you can see flickering light, and you can tell that there's like entrances, but there's a wall. Sometimes I don't know.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
But then, right, so that's what you see. There's a smell of death that's not just olfactory in here. There's definitely like death permeates this entire place, and you're fairly sure that the coldness of the area and the sounds that you're hearing have more to do with pain and suffering and trapped souls than they do any sort of natural occurrence. Do you go forward?
The doors that are ajar, like if I kind of just like put my hand on one, can I tell that a man or group of people could shut said doors?
Yeah, certainly a very strong man or a couple of people could shut it, yeah.
Okay, all right. And this Necro King, he was like deific levels of bad?
No, he was like, archmage levels of bad, but
okay. So there's a shot.
He had control of the necrophage, so that's why he was very scary.
All right. Well, if Adelhard is done inspecting the door, I can at least motion to my companions to at least come a little closer. That way I'm not too far out of reach of potentially healing or...
You do realize that you can close it, but whatever locking mechanism was part of this has been shattered.
Oh, okay. All right. Great. Well, I'm going to motion everyone to come over, and then whenever everyone joins me, I'll decide to stealth in to get a better look.
As you're moving forward, Adelfled, who's with you, Avent, will put a hand on your shoulder and go, I don't think I can keep going very long. When this happens, you saw what happened upstairs. You can't be here. If what happened to Nerubi happens to me, there's no way you're walking out of here alive if you're still here when it happens.
I understand better than you might think. And for now, do not worry, little one. It's a risk we are all willing to take.
And so as you approach the other doors and peer in, you find yourself in the mausoleum. As you peer around the corner, you can see a very simple, unadorned sarcophagus or coffin made of stone. And as you can see in the image, the cover of it has been somewhat shifted, so that's not off, but it has clearly moved. I would like all of you to make wisdom saves.
Well, we haven't lost 5 hit points.
At advantage.
Yeah. Oh, I need that advantage.
Roll of 18 for Avon.
Ugh.
Oh, I get a +0, so with advantage, I rolled a 13.
I did you one better. I got a 9 with advantage.
Oof.
21.
What'd you get, Aunulf?
21.
All right. There is, in this room, a very vast, lingering shadow. This shadow is not in the shape of anything that you recognize. It's just a lingering power, a lingering soul, perhaps. It fills this room entirely. Anyone, so both Aunulf and Avon, you are struck with a sense of fear and foreboding, but it doesn't force you to do anything. However, Adelard and Jurgen, you're struck with such fear, such a sense of impending doom, such a sense of incontrovertible defeat and death and cessation of existence that you can do literally nothing but run out of this room as fast as you can. If you have an inspiration point left, it'll allow you to spend it to not run the hell away. But if you're forced to make another such roll, you will fail it automatically.
Adelhard probably sees this and notices that he just starts getting terrified for it, and he knows that he's supposed to protect Jurgen. So he probably grabs Jurgen by the back of the clothing, and I'm going to save my inspiration and basically drag him backwards. Just drag him out of that room. Like, it is not safe in here. Let's get out of here. Got to keep you safe, sir. And just drag him out of that room. So then they're both out.
Do you fight him, Jurgen, or do you go along?
I am also feared, so more than likely I would not resist.
So the two of you run out screaming into the other room. As you run out into the other room, you can see that a lot of the shadows have started to coalesce and are forming vaguely humanoid shapes. Damn it. I didn't load the token. I'm dumb. Vaguely humanoid shapes that are coalescing around and appear to be quite threatening. But we'll get back to you in a second. Inside the mausoleum, the three of you have remained there. You see the other two run away in abject fear. What would you like to do?
Head forward.
We have a sense of the source of the fear, I'm assuming.
Yeah, as I said, there's this sort of all-encompassing shadow that fills this room. Basically, the best way to kind of explain it is that the spirit of the Necro King has infused this entire place, has become free of his cage, and is just suffusing the entire place. Like he's just everywhere, and in all of this, you can tell that for whatever reason, he's not in any sort of coalesced form or anything like that, but he is present. He is aware that you're here, but there's not like a shape or anything like that that you can aim. It's just all around you.
And how is Aethelflaed reacting?
Aethelflaed is struggling a lot now. You can tell that there are cracks in her skin. Flames are starting to lick out of these cracks. Her hair is on fire, and she's barely holding on. And she looks at you and she goes, "I'm not going to be able to hold this. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen when I let go, but I don't know if it's going to do anything or if it's going to do anything to this thing, but I can't hold it anymore. You have to get out of here. You have to leave. If you don't, you're not going to survive this."
I will step towards her, feeling the power of the living flame as well. And some of it starts to like manifest in proximity to her, and just staring her as deeply in the eyes, trying to get as much of her focus upon me as I can. I say, "I will make certain that your soul is not trapped in this place, young one. Go on then, and let your cleansing flame burn."
Don't tarry too long. I'll hold it as long as I can. And with that, she'll look at you, Aunulf, and nod at you, and she'll walk around the corner. And the second she walks in there, you can tell that the spirit that's in here, this Necro King spirit that's infusing this place, is becoming very agitated. The temperature drops precipitously in here, like it's dropping by like 5-10 degrees every couple of seconds. And you guys, if you stay here, you're definitely going to get affected by it. But you can tell that he's reacting to this. And as you take a last look in the other room, you can see where the light that's emanating from Aethelflaed as the living flame is sort of shedding out, and you can start seeing from that light, as if there's something standing in front of her, a shadow that starts to coalesce on the wall behind her, this giant sort of threatening shadow, as if there is some sort of presence that's standing in front of her. And the light is casting this shadow now on the far wall in the back. What do you do?
Aunulf?
Well, if there is a form in here, at least, I am going to attempt to weaken it by slamming my mace down on the ground and doing Channel Divinity Radiance of the Dawn.
All right.
Blasting 30 feet around me, any hostile figure would require a DC 14 con save or take damage.
All right, Avon, what will you do?
Avon is going to, knowing that the cards that he manifests frequently are dispersed into nothingness and reform themselves, he is going to quickly reach down into his spirit deck and, without looking, pull up the Dark Lord card from it, and placing it on the ground in front of him. As he does, he tears just one fraction of the card, like through maybe a third of the card, and just places it on the ground. And without saying or really doing anything, just knowing his understanding of the spirits around him and how much that would be like of disdain to them. And he possesses within him a wry smile for a moment, knowing that the Dark Lord is about to finally meet fate, or at least this aspect of him.
So as you do that, and you, Aunulf, as you slam your mace down to the ground and call upon the channel of the power of your divinity, you feel this radiant energy that seeps into the ground below you and spreads out through this entire room. The first thing that you notice is that there are shadows in the ground between the various cracks of the stones that all sort of erupt and start to burn. Just dozens and dozens of these shadows that were just lying there in waiting to erupt and sort of catch you. And as your radiant energy spreads out through the floor, they all sort of come out of there and burst into flames as they come in contact with your power. And as it spreads forward, you can hear in the other room a scream of pain. Also, you really don't think that the power that you've unleashed has done anything like, killed the Dark Lord or any of that thing, but you can tell that it is cleansing the area. And the first thing that you sort of feel as you're doing that is that this feeling that you're feeling, that this kind of shadowy essence that's in the place is in the air also, because as your power moves, you can see these little motes of light exploding all around you wherever it comes in contact with that power. So whatever is in this room, you've been breathing it, you feel this sort of dark energy, necrotic power has already started infusing you. Your light just cleanses that right out, and you can feel, both of you can feel it going down inside of you and cleansing something that was taken hold of you in this room. In the other room, as the other two run out, you come out and find yourselves facing in this room a number of very angry ghosts or shadows that have started appearing from out of any nook and cranny where there's a shadow. Very similar to the ones you saw upstairs when you fought these spirits, these restless spirits that have been trapped here, some of them for thousands of years, come out, and you can see that some of them are just sort of going crazy and kind of flitting about and running, trying to get out of this place, and the other ones are starting to kind of flow around you, and you can tell that they're probably going to attack very soon as they're coming around you, and the temperature is dropping in this room around here. You have exited the room, and so find yourself now able to sort of control your actions. You're no longer feeling compelled to flee, but you know you don't want to go back in that room. What do you do?
Well, Adelhard, any suggestions for these shadow boys?
You're gonna look up at Adelhard. He's just standing there, and he'll just see this grin kind of come across his face a little bit as he's kind of
God damn it.
a little bit of that radiance from in there, from Aunulf's, his channel divinity. He's starting to feel a little, whether or not it's actually affecting him or he's just, kind of, was like, finally, he just looks at it. He doesn't even look down at Jurgen. He just stands there, and he's got his war face on now, and he's just got this big old smile. His arm starts to glow, and he's like, he kind of chuckles. He's like, well, about time we get to hit something.
Yeah, that's the problem. There's too much to hit.
He looks over and he goes, nah, they should have brought more.
Oh, God.
He leans back, he yells in the other room. He's like, you guys okay in there?
These wouldn't happen to be friendly shadows,
Just
would they?
peachy.
Well,
All
if you got any, we got a couple guys out here we could use a hand with too, but whenever you get a chance, all right? And then he just kind of, at that point, once it starts, he'll just kind of barrel in and start yelling.
All right. So here is the question I have for all of you. You face an uncountable army of wraiths. Not all of them are going to attack you, but a vast number of them are. That's not really going to matter too much, because those of you who are in the room can clearly see that Aethelflaed is reaching the end of her ability to hold this thing in. You saw what it did outside. You can imagine what's going to happen in here. I want to know very clearly whether or not you are going to attempt to get out of here. Because if you tell me that you're just going to put your heads down and just run for the door and hope to hell that Adelhard can open that door, as Avend had suggested earlier, at least hinted at earlier, we will do a roll and see if you manage to do that. If, however, you tell me that you are all about going out in a blaze of glory, then that's what's going to happen, because regardless of how many of these shades you kill, a couple of rounds from now, Aethelflaed's going to explode, and when she does, this entire place is going up. So, look deep inside your character and tell me, will you attempt to get out of here alive?
So Avend has two promises to keep. One of those promises was that he would keep Jurgen safe. And the other promise was to Aethelflaed just now that her spirit would not be trapped here when she died. So he is planning to hand Jurgen his spirit deck and cast invisibility on him, and then rush back to the obelisk to finish unleashing whatever magic he has remaining upon the obelisk in an attempt to weaken it further, even if that means that he will be overrun in doing so.
Next person.
Aunulf will come out, see all these spirits, cast Fireball in the direction we're trying to go to clear out a path, and then again attempt to escape to continue serving Eowyn. And again, knowing that if everything goes down as it is, there's a chance that our friend will be stuck here. depending on whether or not Avend is successful in destroying the obelisk. So I don't want it to be for nothing.
Very well. Who's next?
Jurgen still likes the idea of being a hero, but at the same time, he kind of knows that, like the Novix will speak well of him, but he will have not proved anything to those in his community or his social structure that he has righted wrongs in order to benefit others if he dies here. And so he's going to try and make the escape in the hopes that he can do better later and try and fix whatever has occurred or do better. And he's gonna run for the door, and then maybe as he's running for the door, yell out to the shadows, whoever waved at me earlier, if you've got a trick up your sleeve and you're a friendly shadow, maybe tell some of your buddies to help me out here, because this looks a little grim. Or help me help you. I'll get you out of here if you can get me out of here. Any shadows want to tag along, you and me can be buddies, and we'll get out of here together. So I'm not saying use me as a vessel, but if you want to hop into my shadow, go for it. We'll do this together. I'm drawing at all strings. Deific, supernatural, get me the hell out of here.
Adelard.
Adelhard standing there with his axe sees that Aunulf and Jurgen are gonna head for the door, try to get out, and he sees Avon hand Jurgen his spirit deck, and he looks at Avon and he laughs and he goes, I've been around a long time. I'll make you a path. Let's get in there. Let's get rid of this thing. And he's going to go with Avend to clear a path to the obelisk.
All right. So as Aunulf comes around, I'm sorry, you're going to the obelisk? Is that what you said?
We would want to have Avend start heading towards the obelisk and get taken out halfway there just by a bunch of these spirits and everything. So it may mean that the smaller members of the party may have to go back through the hole. But he seen Adelhard is thinking it's probably a better thing to be able to get rid of all these spirits down here and keep Jurgen safe. And if it means he needs to take a run by the door to get that open, because he doesn't quite know. He knows he needs to hit something. I mean, now I don't know. Why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing this to me, man?
So even as you're rushing towards the other side, you do notice that Aunulf has cast a fireball and cleared out some space in the spirits, and him and Jurgen seem to be in for the door. Adelard seems to be coming up behind you.
If I could, if we could backtrack just for a moment.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
As Avend places the spirit deck into Jurgen's hand, and just before he casts invisibility upon him, he looks at Jurgen and says, "Your fate is not predetermined, as the cards might say. No one's fate truly is. The cards only show you the paths that you might take. Your path has always been uncertain, young Jurgen. And that means that fate has not made decisions for you. Your actions will determine your fate better than any card. But use these as a guide. Let them help you. Please. Your sister was very important. And that importance will soon fall upon your shoulders. My time, my fate is now decided, and I am happy about that. Please, let your fate bring you the same happiness as mine has.
Jurgen will take the cards as he's hearing this and draw one card and show it to Avend and not look at it, and then put it back in the deck. And then he'll pocket the cards and head to the door.
And just as he's about to cast invisibility, he looks at Adelhard and he says, "My friend, I appreciate it, but I do not need the path that you would set for me as much as they do. That door needs you, and only you can open it." And he casts invisibility. Because he still has a 3rd level spell slot, he can actually cast invisibility on himself and Jurgen. And he will use that invisibility to get to the obelisk.
Okay. Adelard.
Adelard just stands there and watches them go invisible. And he goes, "You bastard, I'll just see you around somewhere, I just know it." And he just starts taking off towards the door.
All right. The fireball clears a path from these spirits, as those who would try to stand in front of you are burned by it, especially given the extra oomph that you get out of the gift that was given to you by Lacrimae and the radiant energy. The fireball explodes, clears a path out of there. Jurgen, you find no resistance as you slip almost like a spirit yourself through them, being invisible, heading for the door. Aunulf, you run after him as Adelard comes up behind you. As you reach the door, you see that there is a mechanism there that can be turned to unlock it. And fearing perhaps the worst, Adelard, you reach out with your metal hand, the one thing that was not accounted for by the builders of this thing so long ago, and grab hold of the handle and turn it, and you hear a clunk sound as the bars inside, old and rusted with time, sort of roll in, and the door itself becomes ajar, and you can feel the breath of the air that's coming out. Even the musty, damp air of the cave feels like breathing in the freshest of air after everything that you've been exposed to in here. As you push the door, you give one last glimpse over, but you can't see Avend, unfortunately, because he's also invisible. But you do hear from the other side of the room. What is it that you will do, Avend, in the other room?
So he still has a little bit of spell power left to unleash another shatter. But beyond that, he's just going to take his sword, use the magic from it with the spiritual weapon, because that's also force damage. Just unleashing as much force damage as he can upon this thing. And then as the shadows start to close in on him, he will fling himself into the mechanism of the obelisk.
So you hear, pretty epic ending there. You hear the sounds of metals and whatnot crashing and being torn apart and sort of ripping, and a sword or a weapon of some sort hitting it. And as that happens, you can see the shadows that were congregating around you sort of coming in at you certainly stop, and they all start to evaporate and sort of move as suddenly the prison that has held them here for so long, this obelisk, is being shattered and ripped apart. And you can hear it on the other side. You can hear the sound of the rock splitting and this giant groaning sound as this thing is coming apart. Then from the other room, you feel a flash of heat and light that comes as you know Aethelflaed, like Nerubi before her, has finally released the living flame. And you hear that voice that you heard coming out of Aethelflaed's mouth, exulting in the power and the fierceness of its release, exploding throughout this room. You can feel the heat of the fire. You can hear the Necro King scream, perhaps for the last time ever, as he's consumed by these flames that were originally meant to destroy everything that he represents. And as you run out of the room, you manage to close the door behind you just as the flames sort of come out and lick at the door. And Adelhard, you push, and your hand, as you push the door in, you realize that the metal of your hand has started to melt from just touching the door after this explosion. You can feel the entire place shaking as you start running and head out the tunnel that you went through. The door behind you eventually shatters, and the walkway that you were on falls apart also, and you can see this crack that reaches up into the ceiling as this flame just spreads out of it and rips the ceiling. And you guys are running, and you're giving it everything you've got, and you can feel the ground around you shake as this entire area on top of you is being split open by the contained force of this explosion that has ripped up into the ceiling of this thing. When the smoke clears sometime later, you'll find yourself outside on a rocky shelf. The blizzard has abated by now, but as you look down below at the foot of the mountain that you were just in moments ago, as you are now on that shelf with the tower, the ruined tower on it, you will see this huge rip into the earth that has split and looks like it goes on for miles, and this just raging, boiling, fiery inferno that's just spreading out of it. And it goes along what was probably some sort of fault line, and it follows the mountain where you stand and goes south along it, just spreading out all the way further, almost beyond the point where you can see. And you know where you stand, that the Noviks have been here and have met with Lacrimae, though you don't see them anymore, but you see their footsteps and whatnot. It looks like Lacrimae and his partner have headed back north, perhaps with the child, and the Noviks have gone back around. And you now know, you can see the Noviks, you know they were going to go see Aelvig, so you can follow their footsteps if you want and head out to the cave where you know Aelvig and Leiknir are supposed to be waiting for you. And as you start on your way down that path, following the trail of the Noviks to go and find the cave where Aelvig supposedly waits, do all three of you give me a perception check?
Before that,
Yes.
I grab Jurgen by the shoulders very tightly, and I stare him deep in his face, and I say, "You lying son of a bitch. You are a hero after all, and you didn't even know it." And then I sort of drag him over to Adelhard a little bit to have like sort of a "we survived an explosion" hug.
You're being hugged by two very large hairy men. Orkin.
Yeah. This is great. Adelhard, you need a bath. Yeah. It feels somewhat good to be alive, though I wish Avend was here to share that with us.
He played his part in the fate.
Well, who knows?
He will not be forgotten.
Maybe fate has a funny way of not showing us all the cards. And perhaps there's something left that we have yet to see. But I don't think this is any close to being over. I think this is
Certainly not.
just an anecdote in this story that we are telling ourselves and hopefully others in the future. But I think for now, we should at least reconvene with my sister and Lake Near and try and figure out what the next steps are, whether it's finding the purest vessel or garnering better relations with the Naviks. Who knows?
I agree, friend.
Adelhard is just kind of standing there. They came over, drug him into a big hug, and he's never been a hugger, but he's just kind of standing there, and he's just like this. He kind of walks over towards kind of the edge of one of those sort of where it starts kind of chasmy areas, and kind of stands there and looks out over it and kind of looks at all the boiling lava and stuff, picks up a rock and goes, yeah, let's go find Aelig, and just kind of just sort of this tosses the rock. It's kind of underhanded, but kind of a, he's kind of thinking to himself. He's like, he's sure at some point, someday, he might even, it wouldn't surprise him if he runs into Avon again in this life or the next or whatever. He's a very practical guy, but it never ceases to amaze him what it can end up happening with that sort of part of the world, and just kind of takes that rock and tosses it off and just kind of turns around, picks his axe up and goes, all right, let's get out of here. And starts walking in the direction. Whether or not those guys have already started walking or they're following him, he's just kind of starts heading that way because he's like, okay, we got to go that way now.
And you want a perception check?
No, you don't need to do that perception check now. It's fine. As you're moving off, Jurgen, you feel something in your pocket, like a sort of warm sensation or something on it. As you reach in and you pull out the tarot deck that Avon has given you, you realize that there's a new card on top of it, and the card is black, and you see eyes, and then you see the same design that was on Avon's face with the black marks, and at the top where there used to be a dot on his forehead, there's a little flame that pulses and glows. And with that, and this creation of the new card, the Speaker of Spirits in the deck, we close Saga 8.
Woohoo! We
Blackbird.
survived. Oh, wait.
Well, Chad, you survived.
Wow.
I know.
Quickly, commit seppuku.
Yeah, throw yourself into the lava.
That rock was me the whole time.
That's right.
Well, as we were walking off, Adelhard probably looked over at Jurgen and said, you didn't see anything, and then just shoved Aunulf into a chasm. And
All's right with the world. All's right with the world. Chad has been sacrificed to the gods of RPGs. Well, guys, thank you very much. That was a very dramatic ending. I super appreciate it. You guys were awesome and phenomenal. The next saga picks up literally just moments before this eruption happens. In fact, you will be able to see it tomorrow as we will move to playing the Shadesong Saga on Thursday nights now on the live stream. And so tomorrow's episode, as this one will be airing on Wednesday, tomorrow's episode will be the first one of Saga 9, 2 for the Rope. And as I said, we'll pick up literally a few hours before this explosion happens, and we will see sort of what leads to that. But you guys were fantastic. You have laid waste to the Necro King, who was plotting his return, and you have managed to prevent that, which is always a good thing.
Something
And you
tells
will
me
notice-
there's more to that story, though.
You'll notice I did not ask how big the room was ever. I said I cast Fireball.
True, and it was quite effective. But yeah, like Miko said, there's always other things going on in this, and I'm pretty sure we've not seen the last of Edelhard or Aunulf or Jurgen, or perhaps even Avent. You know, never know what can happen. Guys, thank you so much. Let's go around one more time. Please tell the people who you are, what you do, where to find you, because you don't need to say how awesome you are, because we already know. We've just watched it. We'll go with, we'll save Miko for last, since, you know, he went down in flames in this one. And Chad, you lived, so the honor to be the first is yours. Tell us all about yourself, sir.
My name is Chad, and I'm shocked I'm alive. Vampwickman on socials. I enjoyed it. Thank you very much, Christian. It was a pleasure. It was a blast. Thanks all the rest of you. It was a pleasure to play with you. Look forward to doing it again. And yeah, not much else.
Good enough, you know, a man of few words, decisive action. Speaking of decisive action, Aaron Cruz, Mr. Adelard himself, the man with the golden arm to unlock the door.
Hey, it was a blast, guys. Name's Aaron. You can find me on Instagram at Complete Diagram Studios, making a bunch of custom nerd stuff, signs and dice boxes, things like that. If you want something, just let me know. There's no set prices, and we can just have some fun with it. And I make custom things. And other than that, looking forward to seeing where I can use, you know, sitting on all that radiant energy, and you wouldn't even let me try to use it. You're like, no, you got to open a door. So I guess I'll just have to come back and try to see what kind of trouble I can get in that time.
Smoke some more of those spirits up. Thank you so much, Aaron. A lot of fun having you. Good luck with this a little woodworking enterprise you got. The stuff looks amazing. So I hope it works out really well for you. People, check it out. Complete Diagram, you said, right? On Instagram?
Diagram is my personal, but Complete Diagram is. Yep.
All right. Check it out. Aaron, other Aaron, Jurgen, little brother, the man with the deck.
Yeah, Aaron here. You can find me on Facebook at aaron.stubbs. Hit me up. We can chat sometime. Love tabletop RPGs. I'm a hobbyist by nature. Love painting minis, 3D printing, in the healthcare business, getting my nursing degree, and working in a hospital. So I can tell you all the lovely things about that. But I also love tabletop RPGs. I'm happy to be here, happy to be a part of this saga. Look forward to seeing whatever shenanigans are left in this story that Bleakseason has created. And who knows, maybe I'll come back as a different character, or you'll see Jurgen pop up in some later saga. Who knows? But I'm glad I got to have some fun tonight, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as well.
Thanks, and good on you for the path you've chosen. We can't have enough people devoted to healthcare that we are in. So I certainly appreciate it, and I recognize it. And finally, the player who has the distinction of being the first character, the first player character to die in the Shadesong Sagas.
How is that possible?
That's how it is. There's been plenty of NPC deaths, but so far, all the PCs have managed to escape intact. You are the first, sir. You get the medal.
Let's hope it starts a trend. Hi, I'm Miko. You can catch me on Twitter mostly, or other socials at @the_KS_GM. You can also catch me on the Superior Adventures Guild Discord. Please feel free to hit me up if you ever want to talk about homebrew or AI art or just D&D in general. I'm always happy to talk. I love TTRPGs, been doing this for a while. And hopefully you'll get to see me again soon in another saga, maybe as a different character, probably, most likely. Yeah, you'll see me again. At the very least, catch us our Monday night mayhem stuff that I am producing. Always a blast doing that. And I think actually here soon, maybe even the next Monday night after this airs, you'll get to see Bleakseason here again doing more crazy shenanigan stuff that I get to produce. So looking forward to all of that. This was an absolute blast. Thank you, everyone. Christian, Vamp, Aaron, and Aaron. This has been a ton of fun, and I'm glad I got to participate with you guys.
Awesome, and super happy to finally gotten you in here, Miko. You and I have been playing a little bit in a few different things together, so it was a pleasure to finally have you in here, and you didn't disappoint with that very epic death. So I totally appreciate you, and I appreciate that. And yes, as Miko was saying, if you're not sick of me, next Monday and the Monday after, I will be on Miko's show on Monday Night Mayhem doing Halloween special of Vaesen, the Fall of the House of Ulver, which is my little take on the Edgar Allan Poe classic. So if you like chills and spills, you can show up for that. Otherwise, we have the ongoing Greyhawk game that DM Dave is doing on Tuesdays. As I mentioned earlier, Shadesong is moving to Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going live with it starting tomorrow, as it works out. And Blade Runner every second Sunday, and plenty of other surprises, other stuff starting up in the coming weeks. You're not going to want to miss. Big thank you to Andy, the producer, for helping out with just a ton of stuff and just being there for us and taking care of all this. And that's it. That's all. We'll see you for Two for the Rope, Shadesong Saga number 9, starting tomorrow. Thank you so much, guys. You're all amazing. And we'll catch you later. Thanks, everybody.